stay together essentially and look for options. Well, those options have now come out there. There's BYU, there's Cincinnati, there's Central Florida, and there's Houston. So not only is the Big 12 looking to survive, they're looking to, you're not going to replace Texas and Oklahoma, but they're getting what they consider the four best teams from the group of five that are out there. And we all know there weren't very many options. So for them to be able to make this move and sort of it's a preemptive to go out and get schools before, the American try to do anything. It's crazy. Just a week ago, we were told that Houston didn't have as much support. And then, a week later, they have enough support that, now we're being told that their inclusion is pretty much a slam dunk. It could be unanimous when a vote occurs next week.
Joseph, are you surprised that this happened this quickly?
Well, given how the Texas and Oklahoma stuff happened, no. I did think somebody was going to have to make a move fairly quickly because if you're the Big 12, I mean, you're in that survival mode. What do? You have to sort of answer the two moves to the SEC as quickly as you can so that, in terms of spots in the Power Five or how you're perceived. And then the American, I thought, was playing from a little bit the opposite, way where they could stay put and sort of see how things shook out. And then if they wanted to try to go and add some people. But, for the Big 12 to do this doesn't surprise me. And I think that when you ask about how quickly this thing was put together, I think we'll see that this thing could come together even quicker when it comes to who plays where and when, and not having to wait until, down the road in 2025.
Joseph, the only part about this I'm super curious about is the fact that the Big 12's grant of rights do run out on paper here in the next 4 years. So do you have any idea if these new schools have been given any type of an assurance that, hey, there's going to be a re-signing of the grant of rights or an extension by the original 8 so that this thing does have that lasting power? Or is there a chance that these new schools join and then in 3 years we're doing this all over again?
That I do not know. That has, yesterday when we were reporting things, there's things that are just very fluid right now. I'm not sure where that stands. I caught the tail end of your conversation when I joined and about the money grab and sort of you try to get as much as you can from the two schools as they exit. And, some people told me they thought that, the Big 12 would wait up until the last hour so that they could maximize how much they got because, let's face it, when those two schools leave, the money's just not going to be like they're used to. So I do not know how the grant of rights is going to be figured out in this, but from Houston and Cincinnati and Central Florida's case, they're going into a better situation money-wise regardless. They're going to, they stand to go from probably, $10 million to somewhere in that, maybe low to mid-20s, I would guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. So it's going to be a win-win for them. Plus the exposure and the caliber opponents that they're going to be playing.
It won't be SEC or Big Ten money, but it will, and it won't be as much as what the 8 remaining Big 12 schools are getting annually, along with Texas to Oklahoma. But the number that I got, and I didn't know what it was going to be, would be somewhere in the lower to mid-20s. If they can do that, that would be a win, because there were thoughts that this could be 12, 15 million or whatever, and every million, of course, it spends. And also, Joseph, now, there was a report, I believe Max Olson, I'm not sure for sure, but that said that Bowlesby was on campus. I mentioned some other schools in which that have been visited, some may be preliminary, some that are a little bit more entrenched in this. Is that what you've heard as well? And have you also heard that the Big 12 might offer those who eventually do join, that they invite and are accepted, that they would give them the possibility of helping a little bit with the exit fees as well?
No. On the last part, I have not heard about the exit fees. In the American, UConn paid, I believe it was $17 million to get out early. Now you got Tillman Fertitta here, so he's been wanting this Big 12 thing for years. I don't know how well the casino business and the food business is doing, but I think they'd be able to somehow work that out if they wanted to to do it on their own and get out. As far as Bowlesby, we did hear he was on campus. We did not see him at a Landry's restaurant. He wasn't at any of Tillman's restaurants that we know of. But that was the big thing. They came away in 2016 very upset that when they made their presentation, some of the big wigs, the leadership of the Big 12 weren't even in those presentations and in those meetings. And that's why when they walked out, they knew that this thing wasn't going anywhere. So if in fact Bob Bowlesby was on campus, that's not only a good sign, but I think it shows where this thing is going. But everybody I've talked to associated with Houston really feels like at the earliest by next week, they're going to have an announcement to make that, a long desired destination is finally in hand.
Hey, Joseph, we had you on yesterday, and then, as you mentioned, my goodness, the changes in 24 hours, the positivity that it seems like for the University of Houston, but also for what is the Big 12, if, in fact, this train is going down the tracks pretty fast, and it seems like it might, in fact, be that way, whether the timeline is in a year, 2, or 3, or whenever. We don't know, but it does seem like things have changed very rapidly and proactively, and the Big 12 trying to find a way to survive this thing along with bringing in the 4 schools, and it looks like Houston could be one of those, or it looks like they pretty much are. Of course, that remains to be seen. Thanks. Is it like a big day for the University of Houston campus and athletic department? And, I've thought about this. Mack Rhoades, former Houston AD, we said this to you yesterday. He knows what the value can or cannot be, right? And how much do you think that might help?
I think that helps a lot to have Mack Rhoades at the seat. And, I was talking with some people late yesterday, and it was an interesting point brought up that, now with Texas and Oklahoma out, you look at the influence that Boone Pickens had at Oklahoma State, and now that, he passed away, there's not a huge power broker, so to speak, in the conference. You look at some of the guys that are out there. Drayden McClain, might be up there now on the Baylor side, but this is a chance for Houston to not only come in, but Tillman Fertitta could have a bigger say or a bigger seat at this table, and that's all they've ever wanted. So I think that is interesting. They're just happy to have a seat. I don't think they're going to have any arguments over what their power is versus the other ones. But it has certainly gone from a near death blow for the Big 12 to not only survive, but to land, which are probably the 4 best group of 5 schools. You could make an argument for Memphis. Boise State has its case at times. But to get these 4 schools, that would probably be the best case scenario that they could have ever come out of this with.
Thank you, Joseph. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Twice back to back. Keep doing what you do. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle on the University of Houston, and where we are since we were here yesterday talking about it with him as well. We'll have Sam Conn at 4. Grayson's going to join us momentarily on Baylor and Texas State, among others as well.
Yeah, it's funny how quickly this all happened, and then how slow it looked like it was going to be, and then how quickly it happened again, or how quickly it looks to be happening again. So, hey, congrats to those 4 schools. It might be a little premature, but it doesn't really feel that way. All this is pretty much just careening, full speed into Big 12 membership. So I like the additions. If this is what it ends up being, I think the Big 12 did the best they could with the hand they were dealt. Still a lot of details to be ironed out, but definitely a big day for those 4 schools.
Those are the ones that are 4 that's targeted. Some of them, like Joseph saying that Houston is all but in until confirmation. Of course, these are the stories right now, but they've been visiting preliminary talks, and you know what? You had this subcommittee, and I thought, okay, I hate committees, but sometimes it's like, hey, why are we meeting? Let's go do something, and maybe that's exactly what they've been doing. Let's take a break right here. We're live at Panther Stadium, Midway ISD tonight, high school football. Midway and Odessa Permian, the mojo in all their history that has not been as good lately, but they still have the tradition of mojo. And that game tonight, our pregame, is 6:30. 7 o'clock, of course, is the kick. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com. Why BetUS? Well, they've been serving clients for 25 plus years and pride themselves on being known as America's favorite sports book. And with action on every sport across the world, we can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game. And BetUS offers the industry's bigger retail bonuses to keep our players betting longer, like the promo codes we have. Sikkim125, that's 125% bonus on a deposit $100 or more, or Sikkim200, and it's 200% if you use crypto. Sikkim125 and Sikkim200, and the BetUS loyalty program is legendary. We keep our players up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. BetUS.com. Use promo code Sikkim125 or Sikkim200.
The Labor Day sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels. With the all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L now arriving and in stock, this beautiful, rugged third-row seat carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. Come in today and see this all-new model and fall in love. Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy an elite tennis facility, but also to remain fit and reshape your body. And ahead of the curve with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman and courts available. Like your body, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. Large flat screen stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available with their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Beautiful sound of members working out, running, lifting, stretching, group exercise classes throughout each day. Personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corey. New look bar and lounge area with beer and wine with large flat screens. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and both include shower, sauna, and whirlpool, and a world-class tennis courts facility and youth academy led by Pro Britt Cole. Fitness and tennis merchandise and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, we're back. Panther Stadium, Midway ISD. You can see behind us the field, the brand new turf, and much more. We've had a pretty Like, I know some of you could not see or hear some of what we said in the first segment, but I hope you got to hear most of it as we're now back. Armstrong, Sims, Hayden Bumpus here, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak. So we'll have Grayson Grunhafer at 3:45 focusing on Texas State and Baylor, and then also at 4 o'clock, Sam Kahn from The Athletic as well. But when Joseph Duarte, what he said to us, now he's also, first of all, we thought there were 4 teams, and there are. And now he's saying Houston, it feels like they're in. UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and Brigham Young.
I like it. I'm fine with that. I think that was what we said. I was gone Memphis over Houston just for the FedEx money, but maybe they felt like that wasn't going to be as much as Tillman for. Look, maybe Tillman for Tita money is more than FedEx money. I don't know. The guy got a ton of money to throw at things. Maybe Landry's is the new sponsor of the Big 12 championship game. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's the 4 that we've been talking about, so I like it. Like I said earlier, this process has gone a lot faster than I expected it to, although I didn't, necessarily think they were going to have the time to, have 2 years to sort through this. So, I just kind of trying to wrap my head around it and waiting to see what the next move is, which I guess will probably come next week or very well could come next week. With official invitations and then official acceptances, what have you. But it's a good group. It's as interesting probably as you could get. Thanks, based on the fact that so many other teams are locked into grant of rights agreements. So to have to go outside of that A5 and find some teams that could fit the bill and make your league interesting. I think they found 4 teams that'll make the league really interesting, not only in football, but in basketball, certainly, and in other sports as well. So, again, they didn't have a lot of options, but I think they got the right ones of the ones they did have.
All right, so your thoughts and feedback. We will have eventually I'm getting some of the texts that are coming through. My internet is off right now, but we'll work on that. Our text line is 254-339-1122. And some of you are commenting on what we have discussed as well. Let me try to go over some of them. This is from Raymond. We get the 6 best teams for now. Wait a little longer until Oklahoma and Texas are gone, and then see if the Big 12 can snag other teams. Keeping an eye on us, and maybe we wouldn't mind playing in that conference that's looking pretty good as far as whom others might look at the Big 12 if they reestablish and get the expansion going. From the 3-2-1, by the way, UCF does sustain stadium, by the way. Heard that on the other call. 3 January 1st bowl games in 8 years. In fact, one of them they beat Baylor. Gus Malzahn, AAC brings some possibilities. Big 12 can sell it. These 4 talked about these programs. Be bold. It's what you make of it. Control the narrative.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Is hey, be the aggressive one. Shape your own identity. Don't let ESPN or, the other media or college football fans, paint you into a corner. I think, you can do something fresh and new, and you got to be a little bit innovative. You got to be a little bit, like I said, on the attack, and I think that's something that they're finally displaying, and, it's creating some buzz, and, it's not going to be the SEC or the ACC or whatever, but shoot, man, if these teams come in here and one of them, does well, has a great run, wins a championship, something like that, big bowl game, I mean, that's all you got to do is just stack wins, right? It's what coaches talk about, stacking wins every day. I mean, that's what the Big 12's got to try and do to the best of their ability. And you do that long enough and you do it right, then, that's going to pay off for you eventually. But, definitely a departure from the norm for the Big 12 as far as what we're seeing these last couple of days, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, it is. It is refreshing. And I'll tell you right now, and I've reiterated this, if you didn't hear it in the first segment, we apologize. When I was on the phone with somebody who was giving me some information and has been through things like this before, I said, it's good to hear the conference has a pulse. He stopped me and said, no, it's more than a pulse. This thing is further down the road than you might realize. A pulse means that you're alive and your heart is beating. This is more than that, is what he wanted to stress to me. And obviously, if they've got 4 teams they've singled out, then it is no question about that.
And going back to Raymond, I mean, there's one team there in Memphis that you can say, yeah, maybe they should have been in the mix or whatever. To your point about adding 6 teams, I mean, I don't know who that 6th team would be. I guess it would be like an SMU maybe, or Colorado State or whatever. But I mean, they can do 4 now and do exactly what you're still saying, go and add later on down the line. So I would rather them, go with 4 that they feel really strongly about than try to stretch it and maybe bring in a 6th that they're not as confident about. Because, again, this is all about money, and you don't want to, you don't want to thin things out and not bring in somebody that's going to have a little bit of value and earn their keep at the table. So I think by just going with the smaller, there was thoughts that they might just get 2 right there for a little while.
There were thoughts they may not even be alive.
They might not get anybody or even be in existence. So yeah, I think to bring in these 4, it's probably the best 4 you could have done. Of course, there's an argument for maybe 1 or 2 other schools, but those 5th and 6th schools could potentially be added down the line rather than all at once.
From the 512, and I'm able to get some of the text line brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine on my phone. Good job by the Big 12 Expansion Committee. If all of this works out, they selected 4 teams, keep football, basketball, performance of the conference relevant nationally. Brigham Young's got a 22,000-seat arena that is phenomenal. It also removed the best remaining pieces off the board from the other conferences for when they want to expand.
Yeah, that's kind of not exactly what I was saying, but kind of what I was thinking as well, is that, yeah, there's not like anybody else out there that you're like, oh, we've got to go grab them right now. I don't think that if you don't grab Memphis right this second, that the SEC or the ACC or the Pac-12 are going to be like, oh, all right, we're going to go grab them now. Because if they wanted to, they'd have already done it. So, I'm with you on that.
From the 954, I love this one. Because there's been some negative and there's been some gloom and there's also been maybes and there's been some trash talking. Luis from Jacksonville, Florida, a UCF alum. Get those Waco bars and hotels ready because we are coming. Go Knights, charge on.
Well, hey, I think people in Waco and Baylor fans will love the trip to Orlando when that happens. That's certainly one of the, actually they join and they're like one of the better road trips already. Now, I don't know what the game day scene is like and all that, but in terms of just a city with some attractions and whatnot. So I know there will be a lot of Baylor and Iowa State and Texas Tech fans that enjoy the trip to Universal Studios, when they go to watch the Knights. But I tell you, Waco's building a lot of freaking hotels. So I think that they are well underway, whether they realized it or not at the time. That was mostly due to Magnolia and Chip and Joanna, but that'll come in handy for sure with some new blood coming to McLean Stadium.
Yeah, it's like someone that went into a makeover. It's kind of like what Chip and Joanna do with homes, and of course now lots of people do that. What the city of Waco has been through, and how. What I mean by that is who they are. It's like even our setup here, which you can see. Armstrong's got the camera. You mainly see us or some of us and the stadium, but there are, for example, straight ahead. This is a massive Amazon distribution building. I mean, when it went up, it looked like it was going to be as big as a stadium, and that's just one. But you see buildings everywhere where there used to not be any. And on University Parks, there are 3 and 4. There are hotels that are going up along MLK, and they already have what seemed like about 4 or 5 times that of when I arrived in 2010. So that again. The businesses are thriving despite COVID, and the structures are going up despite COVID, and it's all because, yes, a couple of businesses are bringing people in, and it's not just because of sports, athletics, or Baylor athletics.
Yeah, well, nothing's been stopped. The good news for Waco is that even with COVID, nothing's been stopped. It maybe have been delayed a little bit, which is, look, try to get barbecue sauce that you like now or lumber or something like that. Everything's been delayed. But as far as that, we're still continuing to grow, and we're still going to grow at a great pace, one that, years ago I think people never even thought possible for this city. So, bring it in and look, this is maybe an easier city to convince your wife or girlfriend to come to on a road trip, to come to a UCF or BYU game or whatever because of Fixer Upper. So
yeah, same thing I was saying with UCF. You got the theme park attractions. If it was Waco, yeah, it would be Magnolia, and that's right across the street basically. from McLean Stadium and Baylor's campus, so I'm sure that will be a buzzing. I mean, it already is. I mean, they don't need college football fans to come in to give them a crowd. They have one, but they will certainly appreciate it, and that will be the little attraction for sure.
The person I talked to earlier today and has given me a lot of the insight. For right now, it's just these 4.
Okay.
They wanted to do 8, but Texas and Oklahoma still might be here for a while, creating scheduling issues. So as soon as they know those 2 are gone, it is likely to be a part 2.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay, so you've got the 4, and those are the 4 that make the most sense. But yeah, that does make it very interesting because of all the teams you mentioned earlier. Colorado State, the SMU one. I'm not going to get down with that. I'm just not. I'm not going to be on board with that one. But if it makes sense to them, then it makes sense to them. They're the ones that have to make the decisions. But that is interesting, and I wonder why that is. I would love to know, and I'm sure we'll eventually find out of what they talked about to where a 2-phase realignment and adding 8 teams and making a 16-team conference. Like, are they thinking this is going to be another super conference? Because it's not. I mean, it's not on paper. It's not a super conference. It would be size-wise, but not, or at least for me, the way I think of it, I think you got to have some blue bloods in a super conference. And there's not one in this conference other than Kansas basketball, right? Without Oklahoma and Texas.
In football terms is how I'm looking at it.
There are football or basketball.
No,
is there another blue blood? No. So, I don't consider it a super conference from that standpoint, but from a size standpoint, it would be.
They're not going to do this if they don't think they're going to be a Power 5 autonomy type.
They're also not going to do it if they don't think they can make the money that they need to make.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I would love to know when that time comes is what made them decide that rather than just going full-blown 16 and bringing in teams that aren't blue bloods and don't necessarily have a ton of money attached to them, where that comes into play.
Right now, the 4.
Yeah.
When, because they will be leaving Texas and Oklahoma, then there's the opportunity for what could be part 2. We got to take a break, come back with Grayson Grudhafer, Sikkim365.com. Grayson, of course, he'll talk with us and give us his feedback about what's happening with Texas State Baylor tomorrow, among some other things as well, including realignment in the Big 12. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They got a lot of great deals going on over at Richard Carr. The Summer Savings Event. They have been very busy over at Richard Carr as they've had a ton of both new and pre-owned vehicles that have been on the lot and that have been flying off the shelves, quite frankly. They are all about customer service over at Richard Carr, but they do have the Labor Day sale going on right now. That's what you need to know most. Labor Day sale pricing on all cars all month long. You can come by and see the yellow tag Labor Day savings on new and used cars on their lot. Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, each one of them going through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. With dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. They have the line of Cadillacs, the ultimate American luxury vehicle, sophisticated looks with a powerful and exhilarating drive. At Richard Carr Cadillac, they will find the right Cadillac for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan started at only $33,395 or the XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size that fits your lifestyle. And if they don't have the right car or truck on the lot for you right now, they will put you first in line for the many cars or trucks coming their way. So get your name on the priority list to get the perfect vehicle for you as soon as they arrive. And Richard Carr, for those in the Waco area, is your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. And, of course, you can go over to the dealership and get the test drive or get in contact with them and set up them bringing the test drive to you because, once again, it's all about customer service. They are off on Monday, Labor Day, to celebrate and be with their families, but the savings will last all month long. So check out the Labor Day savings all month at Richard Carr. They are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
We're back at Panther Stadium, Midway ISD. Tonight we have a 6:30 pregame. 7 o'clock is the kick. Permian High School and Midway. Permian won their opening game against El Paso Pebble Hills. Midway was beaten by Round Rock 69-17, trying to bounce back under Shane Anderson, the first-year head coach. We're now joined by Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com, the Bearcast with Craig Smoak every Tuesday, and also recruiting analyst for the website as well. Grayson, let's discuss tomorrow. Texas State, all the transfers all over the place, and we know Baylor's had a facelift in many ways on offense as well. What are your expectations? What do you want to see? Obviously, I'm sure you want to see a win, but what do you need to see?
Yeah, so I think this is one of those games where I think it will be really telling for how they're going to look in the future as far as this season goes. And the reason why I say that is mainly because if you look at the 2019 season, when they played so well against UTSA to open that year, I think it was 63-14. The year prior, in 2018, they went on the road, faced UTSA. It was kind of a back and forth affair until late in the game. Baylor pulled away, and I think they won by like 17 points that day. But it was obviously a tale of two seasons, because in 2018 they were, barely a bowl team, whereas in 2019, obviously an 11-win team. So I think it will tell you a lot based on how dominant they are in this football game. But the main things I absolutely have to see tomorrow are a Baylor team that can run the football, because they're facing a defense that gave up 224 yards per game, which was 113th in the nation. So if Baylor can't run on them, Baylor's not going to be able to run on teams in the Big 12. The second thing I want to look for is this defense going to live up to the bill? Is this Baylor defense going to take that step forward in year number 2 under Dave Aranda to the point where they are dominant? We saw flashes last year of dominance, and they were a good defense last year, don't get me wrong, but I think there's room to grow, and I think they can be a great defense in 2021, so I want to see them go out and really play like that and be dominant on that side of the ball.
Grayson, there's still a lot of oars on that offensive line depth chart. I was kind of hoping we'd see at least one less one for the first game. Does that concern you?
It really doesn't, because I think at the end of the day, it's basically a sign that in this first game and probably the second game and maybe even the third game, there's probably going to be a rotation, and they're probably going to want to see different combinations and try to figure out where guys fit best when the games are actually being played. And so I'm okay with it. Obviously, it would be ideal to have 5 locked-in starters, but, they got to figure out ways to patch together an offensive line that's going to work for them throughout the season. And I think that just requires reps and requires game film. And, with the loss, of course, of Casey Phillips, that's just another depth piece that they're going to have to try to figure out how to replace as well.
So, Grayson, they're on the road. I mean, it's not the most intimidating place in the world, but there should be a good crowd there in San Marcos. It's also a team that, has a head coach that's been there a couple years now, has poured over the transfer market. They got a ton of new bodies, which I'm sure is one of the more difficult things to have to prepare for Baylor. But where does your concern come into play? Is it on Baylor's end? Is it on Texas State's end? If there is a level of concern, I think most people are confident this should be a win. But if you do have just a little bit of where does it come from?
Yeah, so I guess my main concerns do have, pretty much everything to do with Baylor. Is Baylor going to be an improved offensive team? I think everyone's expectation is that's what's going to happen. But, you got to see it first. And this team couldn't run the ball last year. They couldn't pass block. They couldn't throw the ball downfield. They were just lacking in so many areas that it's really hard to expect them to completely flip that switch in 1 year. But I think the expectation is that they will, because of Eric Mateos, because of Jeff Grimes, because of the emphasis that Dave Aranda had to change the offensive staff. And I think they're more talented than they were a year ago. So the hope is that that's going to change, but it's one of those we're going to see type situations. The other area I do want to mention, though, that I am particularly interested in is this quarterback for Texas State, Brady McBride. Through the first 6 games last year, he was completing 57% of his passes for 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Okay, 5.8 yards per attempt. His last 3 games against much better competition, he got infinitely better, was completing 70% of his passes, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions, 9 yards per attempt. So I kind of want to see, did this team really turn a corner late in the year offensively? And is he really going to be a focal point and really a very good player for this offense? Or was it kind of an anomaly down the stretch?
Grace, I don't know if you saw Charlie Brewer last night, was 19 of 27, 233 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Had a pass at the end of the half that was picked off at the goal line for an interception.
Should have about 4 touchdowns, honestly.
But he had some drops. Your thoughts, are you following much of what he's doing? Because I did.
Oh, absolutely. It's fun to see. I'm rooting for him. I hope he has a really good year. I'm not going to take too much away from that game. It was against Weber State. That's not exactly the biggest competition there. But he played well. He went out did his thing, looked good. I mean, he won the job for a reason. I think he's going to be good this season. I think Utah is probably going to be, you know, an 8-4, 9-win team. So they're going to be competing in the Pac-12. And I'm excited to see him continue to grow and really elevate potentially another really good program. So, yeah, I'm rooting for him. I hope he does well. And he looked good in their first appearance last night. And, you know, for Utah, I was really happy to see them get that win. Obviously, that young man, Ty Jordan, who unfortunately died, you know, over the summer, they were commemorating him. And so it was really cool to see them go out and play well. And obviously a really sad situation, but I think all of Utah was kind of, really the whole country was really pulling for Utah last night. At least I felt that way, especially as someone who covered Ty Jordan's recruitment.
How do you feel about UCF, BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston as new members of the Big 12 potentially?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as a lot of people, to be honest. I'm really not a huge fan of the Houston edition, just because I just don't feel like it makes a ton of sense, because there's already, you know, the Texas schools that are already in the Big 12. I don't feel like adding another Texas school to Power 5 makes a ton of sense, but hey, geographically, I guess it does. So I guess I'm okay with it. I like the other three. I think those are three good additions. It automatically elevates the product on the field in the Big 12, especially in basketball. I think they're going to be a lot better in basketball with those additions. And I also think as far as the football side goes, you know, Cincinnati, UCF, there's a lot of momentum with those two programs. And, yeah, I think BYU as well, obviously. So, yeah, I think it'd be good additions overall. And the Big 12 need to make a move. And I'm happy they're being, you know, very quick to do it. They're not sitting around waiting for other people to make a decision. They're being decisive. And so hopefully that leads them in a good direction.
Grayson, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Grayson Grunhafer. It's Baylor and Texas Tech tomorrow. San Marcos kickoff at just after 6. And we'll be our pregame show slightly before kick, I think 4 until 5:30 tomorrow. And so we'll be in studio for that. And then the postgame with with Paul Catalina, J.D. Piquel as well. All right, when we come back, Sam Kahn of theathletic.com just sent me a text. He goes, I'm working on a story. I might be a little bit late, so I'm seeing if Brandon Hellwig, who covers UCF, if he can come on early. One way or the other, we'll have one of the two, and also a couple of other updates as I continue to get some insight on what's happening with the 4 teams and why one team rather than maybe somebody else, some of the news or information behind that. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. City of Woodway, we're in Hewitt. Woodway's just to the west of us. It's on Highway 84, which goes down to McGregor from Waco. Right now, discoverwoodway.com, you can go online and find numerous type clinics and camps, sports, athletics, and even, well, get-togethers that are available on that website. Of course, the city of Woodway is also 7 minutes from Baylor's campus, about 7 minutes from the Magnolia Silos in downtown with Chip and Joanna, 7 minutes from Balcones. The city of Woodway is where you can also find hotels if you need to stay or want to stay. And, of course, they have trails and hikes and all that other good stuff as well. And don't forget about unbelievable events, a beautiful arboretum that hosts weddings and much more. And reunions. And so discoverwoodway.com is where you can find all of that, from the events to clinics and more, the registration information. discoverwoodway.com.
At Impact Research Institute, we can help you identify if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and measure for liver stiffness or scarring. If you or a loved one has diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, or concerns about your liver health, Impact Research Institute may be able to help by providing liver health screenings quickly at no cost, physician counseling, and opportunities to qualify for clinical trials. Visit us at impactresearchtx.com for more.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day. And it's not just pizza, great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. And you have this umbrella. We mentioned the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, but you serve more than just like home insurance, or you have all sorts of different levels of different things you cover.
Yeah.
How much does that help?
You know, I talked to a guy today. He has, Allstate on his car, a Progressive boat, and, Farmers on his home. So I said, why don't you, do you know your agents? No, I just call that 800 number. Why don't you just let me quote that and we can have it all here. Makes it a lot less complicated for you. He really liked that. So we have auto, home, life, several different brokerage options, classic cars. Got to ride in a 1978 Ferrari one time.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sick 'em 365 Radio.
That one picked off, and it's a pick six by Jalen Petrie.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports on YouTube. Brandon Helwig was scheduled to join us at 4:30. He covers UCF, the Knights, in fact, is the publisher for that. And he joins us a little bit earlier. Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, will join us a little bit later on, as will Jeff Howe, who covers Texas as they open up against the University of Louisiana. Brandon, man, things seem to be moving very quickly with the Big 12. I've been able to have sources tell me UCF, Houston, Brigham Young, and who am I missing, guys? Cincinnati. Your thoughts, what is kind of the reaction? There still hasn't been the official announcement. What's the reaction right now on campus in the athletic department?
Yeah, this really been a whirlwind. We all kind of had an idea that, something was going to happen, sooner than later regarding the Big 12. And I know talking with UCF people, they were pretty confident they would be included in such a scenario. I think some things kind of had to fall in line first. Like, we had to, I know Big 12 had to see, is the Pac-12 going to expand? Is there potential for a Big 10 landing spot? And when those things didn't happen, it seems like everything kind of accelerated quite a bit. Everyone's kind of confirmed the news. It's not really breaking anymore. You just said it. Those 4 schools are going to be joining. From what I was able to gather today by talking with my UCF sources, it's going to happen, next week. I guess there's a process involved with you got to put in an official bid to be invited, and all those wheels are in motion. That'll be in the middle of next week, and I guess by the end of next week, I think everything will be, finalized and approved by the Big 12 presidents by Friday. So, yeah, it's happened really, 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 really quickly. It's just everything I'm hearing right now is UCF and at least the other American schools were joined in 2023. Obviously, there's a little bit of a question mark about, as everyone knows, Texas and Oklahoma. When are they actually going to leave? What's the status there? But yeah, this process, from what I understand today, it's been ongoing, at least with the American schools, for the last couple of weeks. Because I've even heard they've talked about revenue numbers in terms of because when the schools would come in, if they come in for 2023, that would be the 2 final years of the existing Big 12 media rights deal, and they've already given school specific numbers. Obviously they wouldn't come in and make a full share right away, but they've already discussed that. I know the American schools have already started the process with the American in terms of a buyout and a withdrawal, and kind of that process has already started. So while we just kind of learned about it, in essence, yesterday morning, I think some of the schools involved maybe have kind of known with a wink and a nod that, yeah, this may be happening pretty soon.
What does it mean for UCF as a university, as a fan base, that this did come about when clearly for the last decade or so they've been making moves to try to make this happen, even though 10 years ago it may not have seemed like it was possible?
Yeah, I think there's going to be excitement. Obviously, there's still some questions just because, Power 5 status going forward. What will future media rights deal be? Is there a concern that some people are referring to now as the Power 4? Could they essentially maybe squeeze out, the Big 12 if they didn't see them as a peer conference anymore? But, once we, assuming everything remains status quo and Big 12 remains in an Autonomy 5 league, which I believe it will, I know, everyone around UCF will be excited. I think, we need to see maybe more playoff access, which I know apparently will not happen as quickly as we thought it might have at some point with the pause being put there. But, for schools in the American, they're going to go from making, $6-7 million annually, in the American to, we'll see what it ends up being, beyond 2025, but just kind of taking that next step forward, which, really the big discussion point really amongst UCF it's really the dynamic with UCF's main rival, South Florida, because this was an issue that I don't know how many of you listeners are aware, but, UCF started their football program in 1979. They played at lower levels, Division III, eventually 1AA and elevated to 1A FBS in 1996. And South Florida never had a football program all the years, and they basically just started in 1997, I believe was their first year. And just with the way everything happened in the early 2000s and that stage of realignment, they were able to join the Big East. And that upset a lot of people around UCF, and they, at the time, to their credit, USF had the more, all-around structured athletic program and all the other sports. But USF for years fought to keep UCF out of the Big East. And, it's not just me saying that. You see Brett McMurphy saying that, Andy Staples, they've kind of alluded to that today, too. So there's kind of, at least amongst fans, there's kind of some sort of, satisfaction or some gloating amongst rivals that UCF got the call up and USF did not.
Well, Brandon, last night, the season debut, I mean, it could have been a sort of good and sort of bad 24 hours the way that game with Boise State started off, but to UCF's credit, they came charging back under Gus Malzahn. Your thoughts on the season kicking off last night?
Yeah, I mean, that was just wild. I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but the game was supposed to start off at 7 p.m., and we had nearly a 3-hour lightning delay, and there was a concern for a while whether the game would even get played. As we see, it's Florida. You never know what's going to happen. It didn't rain all day, and then these storms just kind of pop up out of nowhere with lightning. So it did not get off to a good start. UCF looked like they were rolling pretty early, looked like they were about to go up and score, and quarterback Dylan Gabriel threw basically a 100-yard pick six the other way, and Boise went up by 3 scores. I think it was 20. It was not a good start, suffice to say. But UCF didn't panic. It could have got out of hand, but they were able to rebound and get a couple touchdowns before half. I think it was 24-14 at halftime, and pretty much dominated the third quarter. I think they held Boise State to negative something, and it was negative 11 yards in the third quarter as they kind of mounted their comeback. But, it was a great atmosphere just for the first time to kind of have a full stadium, and majority of the fans stuck around, which was remarkable. It was a school night. The game didn't get over until after 1 o'clock. And, it was a great atmosphere for everything going on in our world. And just to see the comeback, and just was really a fantastic game. One of the most memorable games that I know UCF fans will remember for years to come.
I think the halftime speech was, guys, we're hearing that whoever wins this game is invited to the Big 12. And perhaps that kick-started, I'm joking, of course, UCF. And we have Jeremiah Dickey, the AD at Boise State, was at Baylor most recently under Mack Rhodes. And obviously I was starting as about the time I went to bed. I said, I'm going to reach out. That'd be a great win for Boise, of course, and have him, if we could, on the show today. But UCF came back and pulled it out. So in the end, it's kind of hair on fire right now, right, Brandon, how things have flipped so quickly.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And let me say something real quick about Boise. I was really impressed for coming all the way from Idaho to Florida. They had a fantastic traveling base that came all the way down here for the game. I mean, really, some of the most fans I've seen at a UCF game in a long time from an opposing fan base. You know, at least a fan base that's not from in-state. So kudos to them. I know they have a great fan base. They would have been, worthy, addition to the Big 12 as well. I guess the only word to focus on for. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff going on right now. Obviously, it was a great debut for Gus Malzahn, and we're going to be hearing about this Big 12 stuff coming up. And I know UCF's got a lot of facilities plans that Dan built a couple of weeks ago, and I know that'll be, full steam ahead here the next couple of years. They want to build new football facilities, new basketball facilities, and all that. So yeah, a lot of exciting things coming down the pike here for UCF.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Craig, anything else? Brandon Hellwig, he covers UCF, has been with us before, and you can almost hear in his voice, one, he probably got a little bit of sleep finally, and two, the win by UCF, and then three, the story that's popped throughout America. We've had it, and I mentioned it off the top of the show. Got a great inside source that is not a part of any of the schools involved. And when he said Boise State that could have been as worthy, if there is a chapter 2 of realignment, then who knows who will be a part of that. One of the possibilities of Memphis and Houston, why one or the other? Let's come back with that next on Sikkim 365 Radio, and we'll also have Sam Kahn from The Athletic. We were going to have him at 4. Brandon Hellwig was nice enough to flip it around. Sam will join us at 4:30. Okay, so Houston rather than Memphis. UCF maybe rather than Memphis. Sometimes we think Houston rather than Memphis, but maybe it was UCF rather than Memphis. UCF is basically saying we can fund our own way. We will handle whatever we need to handle. And Memphis may not have been, I'm not saying this is, but Memphis may have needed a little bit of help along the way. Not that they weren't someone they should not be a part of this or should be a part of this, but there may be a little bit of that on you're going to be invited. Here's what we need from you. And there was leverage from the Big 12 here. And what can you do when it comes to your exit fees and others and what we need to give you in return? And as he mentioned, it might be a stair step, a ladder of how much you get, like it happens in other places that the teams have joined the conference as well. Not all of them, but some of them.
I'm a little surprised that Memphis couldn't call Fred Smith and say, hey, you just sold the Redskins. How about some of that money coming our way? But maybe that's not really where they're at. Maybe he's fine with sponsoring something, but not paying an exit fee.
Yeah, you can't pay everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, look, even T. Boone Pickens had his limits at Oklahoma State. Where
it's his money at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not necessarily like FedEx can sponsor something, but when you're talking about exit fees, that's probably not FedEx. That's probably Fred Smith's own money going to that. So I think that's probably a lot part of it. The other thing is, one of the things to why Houston and not Memphis is simply Houston is a top 10 and top 5 market, depending on the fluctuations, and the difference between 5 and 10 right now is not very much. It fluctuates year to year, and Memphis is number 51. The population center is a little smaller, and if you're the Big 12, it's probably population centers and alumni bases. It might be a little bit more important.
One of the things on Memphis, and from my sources, one of the things is that they may not have even responded. It's not. I would not think they wouldn't pick up the phone and call the Big 12, but there could have been that they did not respond. UCF saying, we'll take care of our own bills. We'll take care of our own exit fee. We'll take care of this. Hell, they might even say, hey, we'll pay you to buy into the Big 12. I doubt that. But, hey, you never know, because you have teams who have been waiting for this moment, including Houston and the others we've mentioned. And all of a sudden, this thing has turned so quickly. They want to get in. You show us how you want to get, even though the Big 12 also needs them. They need the Big 12 as well. And there was a thought here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, did anyone need the Big 12? Remember a lot of that?
Well,
I always felt like, hey, they're still a Power 5, and they do have a contract through 24-25.
The best relationships are symbiotic, like the rhino and the tsetse fly. The tsetse fly keeps the other things off the rhino's back. I don't know what it does, but they're symbiotic. It's
like the dolphins on a whale.
It's almost like this was mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
there
what
you
it
go.
was.
How about
like,
that? Yeah.
Hey, we need some teams. Hey, these teams want to be bigger brands. Hey, there you go. Boy, it makes a ton of sense. And there will be others that I'm sure who are left out of this wave, whether or not it's the first or last wave, that will be looking to up their stocks for any potential second wave, as you alluded to earlier, if there is one of those. But as far as this first one goes, I mean, I think. As far as timing, getting this done quickly, getting, T's crossed and I's dotted and just moving forward, I think was the healthiest thing for the Big 12 to do. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of things to get sorted out here, but I don't know about you guys. I feel a lot better about the Big 12 now than I have at any point in the last 6, 7, 8 weeks probably, since Big 12 Media Days.
Late July.
So in well over a month, this is the strongest I've felt about their chance to remain alive, basically. Now, I do need this GOR question answered, though, at some point, and I'm sure that's like one of the major things they're trying to figure out. But in my opinion, until we hear something about the grant of rights and that being extended, this is like a celebration for something that could last like 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, what's stopping West Virginia if the ACC starts feeling froggy, although clearly they have no interest in West Virginia. They've had every opportunity to add them. I'm just using that as an example. Maybe their mind changes because there's been so many shifting parts. But, yeah, with that grant of rights question, I have to imagine they're going to have everybody sign extensions. And then at the same time, if you're Kansas, are you locking yourself into the Big 12 for 15 years? But, hey, this might be what you have to do.
They're not going to do this without having some sort of that. But it's a legitimate point.
Yeah, it's just
we're going to save ourselves for 2 or 3 years, or are we going to have something that's going to be extended? And that's why when you start to piece together the 4 or by the way, possibly Chapter 2, this is what we want. And so that, you're exactly right.
Yeah, and I would just like to know that for just foundational purposes.
I did
to know,
ask that to a couple of people last night.
We're all in together for the next 15 years or whatever it ends up being. That's like that would make me feel good because it hasn't felt that way for a long time. But I know that's part of this process. And of course, like they could all sign one, and then if Kansas gets a Big Ten invite or West Virginia and the ACC, they'll pay their buyout money. I mean, that's that too.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's always people you can count on or come to get in touch with when there are things you need to know, and almost in some ways as confirmation. There are 2 or 3 that I always could go to. They have not responded to me for a second. Not a text, not a call. To me, that's good news.
Yeah, I mean,
to me, that's good news. Well, it's too close to say anything or confirm anything.
Well, that's good news because if it's no, it's no. Because if it's no, they have the opportunity to stop it in its tracks.
Say, hey, you better check yourself at the door before you say that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get hung up on that point. It's just it's a very important point because that's what all this is based around. But let's just assume that that's going to be taken care of, and assume that had to have been a major part of the discussions with all of the teams involved, including the current members. Hey, good day for the Big 12 in my mind.
So what if, in fact, the Bob Bowlesby accusations against ESPN, which was basically tortious interference, and you're trying to kill us, and it was with the AAC? Who from these 4 are a part of the AAC?
3 of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you wonder if that, first of all, kind of calmed the waters a little bit, or at least shut the door for a second, and then if, as was Craig saying, is what's the extension of any possible grant of rights with the network? Is ESPN all of a sudden realizing that, hey, maybe we do need to make this work out? And maybe here are 3 of the best from this conference.
Maybe what they said that was, to me, like this is from my perspective, ESPN's like, okay, you got us. All right, yeah, we were doing this, and obviously when we said we were going to extend your TV deal, when the other 8 of you walked out of the room, we were like, hey, Texas and Oklahoma, you guys hang back for a second?
Yeah. You're not reporting that. You're just using it as a scenario.
Yeah, I'm using it as like, and they said, you guys. Here's an idea. Just kick it around. I'm just saying. And then, so if after they did that, if again, ESPN's like, okay, well, this obviously not good for everybody involved. What if we helped you to this point get to something that we would be interested in?
Yeah, they had to have had conversations. They had to have.
Because you're not doing this if you're any of these, not just 12 schools that would eventually be in the Big 12, any of the potentials. Even if I'm Colorado State and I see that like my chances are not nearly as good as BYU or UCF, I'm still asking the question like, okay, so why am I going to do this if I'm making $7 million right now? Am I going to do all this stuff for $2 million more dollars and I'm going to pay an exit fee to my conference? So what's the deal that we have on the table? And that's what I would know.
We've had two people who have come on, Joseph Duarte and Brandon Hellwig, and I also mentioned this as well. You're looking at the possibility, and a lot of things still have to be done, of in the lower to mid-20s at a minimum.
And that's what they need.
That would come from talking to networks. That's not coming from anything that they would have put together themselves. I can't imagine. You'd have to have the network's input on what that could potentially look like. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that little threat simmered the water, or not simmer the water, but calm the water enough to give themselves an opportunity to kind of regroup and have ESPN back off a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's something that we'll learn, over time, over the years, when everybody starts telling their tales of how this all occurred. And I'm sure there will be books. I'm sure like some dude from some UT or OU website's already working on the book for, the move to the SEC. But, yeah, there had to have been some discussions.
Well, and if you're ESPN and if the future's about streaming, do you want to send something to another app? Like, do you want to do that, or do you want to be able to control it, or at least have your hand in it? Because immediately from the beginning, by doing what you did with Texas and Oklahoma, you're essentially telling the other teams go somewhere else, even though you could make a deal with them and keep them under your umbrella, and then you can vertically integrate. Now, maybe it's other people. I'm sure other networks are involved. So
there are a lot of you that are reaching out on the text line. We're trying to get to those as much as we can. I've read some of those. 254-339-1122. The YouTube chat room is just like blowing and going, and you guys are almost like a life upon yourselves. Thank you for watching. I know that we had some rough spots. I'll admit it. We're at a new location. We had a couple of things go wrong, but we appreciate those of you. Hey, do you know this? Yes, and thank you in case we didn't. What Hayden's done and also what Armstrong has done behind the scenes, we appreciate that as well. When we come back, Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, they've been kind of a step ahead of everybody on this. I have seen today now writers nationally, when they make a comment or report something about the Big 12 or whatever, hey, we've already reported that. I've never seen that before. I've seen a few times someone's called out.
Yeah.
Like Ross Dellinger, who's a great college football writer, and says, we got this. And then Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, hey, we've already written that story. Look, I've never really seen that before. I could have, and I just didn't have time to, on a lot of what I said off the top of the show. It was more important for me to share it with you, our audience, than put it up on Twitter.
Yeah, and I think those that's interesting for those media guys. And if I was media, I'd be careful, because there's a lot of them that have probably done something exactly the same at some point or another. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing. This is a crazy day. Was not expecting to be talking about this today. I mean, I thought there was obviously movement, but not just like full formation and like final details and all that. I mean, that's not quite there, but it's not far off.
I don't expect it from the Big 12. That's what
exactly.
To hear we have a plan. It's like, what? No way.
Yeah.
Good
all
for
right.
you kids.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Sam Kahn, part of theathletic.com. He's joined us many times. Thanks to Joseph Duarte, who covers Houston, Brandon Heltwood, who covers UCF. Well, you know what? Sam Kahn, who covers college football. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be. How? Get online, PettyClinicalOT.com. Top left corner, there's an address, an email address, and a phone number. That's how you contact his office. That's how you, in fact, tell him. David Smoak sent me. If you are, as you get older, your testosterone level can drop. When it drops, it could affect your sleep, it could affect your energy, it could affect your sex drive, it could affect other things as well. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Are you one of them? I don't know. But why not find out if, in fact, any of those three things has been kind of an issue for you, or possibly two or three of them. Get online, tell him Smokey sent you. Dr. Petty will set you up for blood work. He'll get the lab results, and if your testosterone levels are too low, Dr. Kent Petty will put you in a program, give you that option to become raise your testosterone levels to become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
The thing about having a naked truck is that you get exposed for the equipment you don't have. Take, for example, your rear end. If you don't have anything back there, you're exposed about what you don't have, and that's a life. However, if you cover that rear end with a hitch, you're telling the world, hey, I got a little junk in my bed, and I'm ready to pull something. A camper, RV, boat, trailer, jet skis, heck, even a bike rack. A hitch says, I have a life beyond driving my truck to and from work, and Pickup Outfitters is the place to get a hitch for your truck, SUV, van, even some cars. We sell and install just about any kind of hitch you need. Receiver hitches from light to heavyweight to pull just about anything. And gooseneck hitches and fifth wheels when you're ready to pull the heavy stuff. And don't forget trailer and brake controller wiring. It's so important to have wiring professionally and correctly installed by the pros at Pickup Outfitters. So it's time to cover that gaping hole in the rear end of your truck with a hitch. Installed by Pickup Outfitters. Check us out online at createacommotion.com.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, Joseph Duarte covers Houston. Brandon Helwig covers UCF. And Sam Kahn, great friend of the show from theathletic.com, and a lot of the staff at theathletic.com we've had on the show, including recently Max Olson. Sam, it appears as if there's more than a pulse with the Big 12.
There is. Reports of their death have been greatly exaggerated. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I know you're working on something. I don't know what that might be, and maybe it is about this, so you may not be able to say much, but this does appear is it's not that they have targeted, but it looks as if this is not, I don't know, imminent, but UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and Brigham Young. What are your thoughts if, in fact, when that becomes official?
Yeah, if that's the place that we end up, I think it makes it a solid conference. And because it's the bottom line, when it comes to realignment in 2021, football inventory is the priority because you're looking for good, solid football programs that attract viewers and attract eyeballs and attract interest and can be competitive and successful. And those four programs that you're adding all have recent histories of success. BYU has been consistently successful. Cincinnati, of course, last year had a huge year. UCF, we remember, what they've done in recent years, and Houston is a little bit more removed from it, but, went to a Peach Bowl in 2015 and had a good run under Tom Herman, a good run under Kevin Sumlin. They've been very committed in terms of spending on facilities and coaching hires, things of that sort. So these are programs that I think would fit and would make sense for the league and to bolster it competitively in football. And I think it also makes it a really good basketball conference. But football is what drives the bus on these decisions. So when you look at who's available and who you can actually attract to the current 8 members of the Big 12, I think these 4 make a lot of sense.
Sam, how much is this? We hear Texas and Oklahoma immediately to the SEC. I mean, those are good television games. Year one. Whatever their schedule is, it's going to be a great television schedule right off the bat. Whenever the alliance happens, most of those games will be good television games right off the bat. How much of this for the Big 12 is, even though a lot of these teams might be good, like UCF and Cincinnati and BYU right now, but maybe not as attractive nationally, is about building this as a 10, 15, 20-year decision of making them good TV games down the line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think of adding somebody like Houston to a conference that has Baylor, Texas Tech, and TCU, those are all old Southwest Conference mates. And so there's some natural interest and natural rivalries there that I think make a lot of sense. Cincinnati becomes a team that, again, is immediately competitive right now. And you bring them, they're a little bit of a travel partner with West Virginia, but I think they become a program that's a factor. I mean, you see they've competed at a very high level. BYU has competed at a high level. And so what makes good football games and what makes good TV is competitive games. It's games that have great players, good interest, a lot of competition. And I think this gets you there because, again, these are all programs that have history of success. They haven't had prolonged, feudal results on the football field. So I think in order to make a good TV product, you want a game like last night where you saw UCF and Boise State. That was a hell of a game to watch. That was a lot of fun to see on a Thursday night. And I think bringing in these programs helps you accomplish that from a Big 12 standpoint.
Sam, you covered Houston for many years. Of all the teams throughout this process, when they got brought up, there was that whole – and in our show we talked about it, like, another Texas team? Is that really what TCU or Baylor or Tech would want? Does that help them? Does that hurt them? Where did you stand on that, and why did Houston make sense as far as bringing another Texas team into the fold, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think Houston makes sense for a few reasons I mentioned earlier. Their spending commitment, I mean, they're a $75 million athletic budget, which compares favorably. It would be a lower-end Power 5 budget comparably, but they've spent $4 million a year on their head football coach. They spend $3 million a year on their basketball coach. I mean, they've got really a fairly new stadium. They've got a new basketball arena, new practice facility for basketball. They're trying to get in position to get a standalone football building for their program. So they've been willing to do all of those things to compete at that level. Of course, it's a huge recruiting base. I mean, Houston, with Texas and OU moving to the SEC and A&M already there, Houston has become a city that is rated by the SEC schools for talent, and I think that's going to continue. I think if you're the Big 12, you want to be able to keep a footprint in that city because Houston is one of the most fertile recruiting grounds in the country. And so having Houston in there, I think certainly, yes, does it help Houston? Yes. But I still think it does help the other schools as well because then you have all these schools that are in close proximity and they're all drivable for the most part except for Texas Tech. And I think that's going to help from a recruiting standpoint for the Big 12 to keep a hand in that city. And, of course, just from a pure population standpoint, when you talk about eyeballs and viewers, Houston itself, I don't know how many viewers University of Houston brings, but you bring those teams into Houston to play. I think Baylor coming to Houston does a lot more for attendance than Tulsa versus Houston, so to speak, or USF versus Houston, something like that. So I think having these familiar brands, I think, helps a little bit more with the fan experience.
Sam, obviously this has been down the fast track, and in the Big 12 for a while, we kept asking, where are you? What? And sometimes saying nothing is on purpose. Your thoughts, is there one of the four teams that you see that basically is all but imminent? Is there one that surprises you or one that is not a part of that you would rather see a part of it?
No, I think these are the right ones. Again, like I said, going back to the previous success, some of the other schools that you've heard, thrown out there, Boise State, obviously they've had a lot of football success and make some sense, but they're a little bit on the lower end. They're behind a little bit on a budget standpoint. Their athletic budget is in the mid $40 million range, a lot lower than the current Big 12 members. So that while their football program has been very good, that's a little bit the deck is stacked against them a little bit financially in that way. Memphis is, I know, one that's been mentioned a lot, and Memphis has been competitive. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think the four that they've chosen at this point, I think, make the most sense. Again, based on football inventory. Going back to what I said at the start, was football inventory and good football programs is essentially what you're trying to attract to keep your league afloat. And those four, I think, are really fine choices.
Do you think they can really make this happen in 2 years?
That is going to be the interesting part, because UConn left the American, and of course the American has this 27-month notification policy and the $10 million exit fee, and UConn was able to negotiate that down, but UConn was not at the top of the conference. Them leaving did not damage the American the way UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati leaving is going to damage the American. That's going to have a huge impact on their revenue, just the way that Texas and OU had leaving the Big 12. Maybe not as big, but it is. But for that conference, for the American, those three schools leaving is going to have a huge impact. So I would imagine that Mike Oresco and the other schools in the American are going to do what they can to fortify themselves and try to keep this going as long as they can. So I would not anticipate it next year, but could it happen for 2023 if this thing ends up going here in the next few weeks? Possibly. 27 months from right now puts you at basically at the end of the 2023 football season. So they would have to probably find a way to negotiate it out. And then the other key part of that is Texas and OU still part of the league at that point when these schools enter. I find it hard to believe that they would be. I don't see Texas and OU want to be part of this if and when these schools come in. But I think that remains to be seen. There's a lot that still has to be worked out in that regard.
Given Bob Bowlesby and the last time that we heard from him, he was threatening ESPN. It's hard to imagine that the Big 12 is making moves like this without, some say from the networks. Do you have any sort of understanding or information on kind of the input possibly that an ESPN or someone outside of the conference per se had on their plan here and executing that plan?
I don't, but I would imagine that Bowlesby has a pretty good feel based on audience numbers and ratings and revenue and what the current contracts are for each of these conferences. I would imagine he's got a pretty good feel on it. So I don't know exactly what involvement, if any, that ESPN has had or Fox has had as a TV partner, but I would imagine that these decisions are not made without some pretty strong intelligence in that regard, because to me, if you're Bob Bowlesby, it's reckless to make this decision unless you know that these schools are going to provide TV value, because that's where most of your money comes from in the conference revenue is media rights and TV rights. So it behooves you to bring in somebody that's going to attract those eyeballs. So to me, I think it's reckless if you don't have at least a solid understanding of what these schools would bring to that regard.
Sam, one other thing that I have, in fact, mentioned on the show is that there may be two chapters to this. There may be chapter 1, 4 teams, we've heard them, and then once the Texas and Oklahoma exit becomes official, there could be a chapter 2. Have you heard that?
I haven't, but again, all this stuff is flying. So, it's everything is so fluid at this point, and we're all trying to nail this down. So, who's to say? It's hard to predict all this stuff. That's the thing, and that's the thing that becomes so difficult is, and the conversations that I've had with people over the last few days is, okay, once this happens, what happens next? And then how long does this hold? How long do we all hold in this current state? Are we doing this again in 10 years? Right. That's the other question. Yeah. And that's just so hard to predict because the landscape changes. Look at how much the landscape changed from 10 years ago, from the last cycle of realignment. The last time we were talking about this, we were talking about cable households. Now that's not even in the discussion anymore because it's not about drawing cable subscribers anymore. Now it's about everything moving towards streaming and trying to figure out what brings the most eyeballs in that regard. So, and market size isn't necessarily the driver that it was 10 years ago. So these things change so fast, and the factors that influence it change so much that I think it's so hard to predict how these things go.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Good luck with what you're writing. I know that right now, this is a rapid fire. Thanks for your time on a day when you're busy. Appreciate it as always.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. Y'all take care.
Sam Kahn covers college football for theathletic.com. We're going to hear from Jeff Howe, who covers Texas. They have that game with the University of Louisiana coming up, in fact, tomorrow down in Austin.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what he had to say is obviously still uncertain, and we're asking the questions, and he's asking those same questions, I'm sure, up the line as well. So the dust hasn't quite settled, but pretty big day there for the Big 12 Conference to be making a move like this. And I knew most of what he was going to say when I asked about Houston, but for a guy who covered Houston so long, I wanted to hear him explain, and his explanation makes perfect sense. My biggest hesitation with Houston was if they were only going to add a couple of teams. That wouldn't have made much sense to me because I feel like you're almost becoming just like a Texas league, you know what I mean? Or you'd be kind of moving your way that direction. But the fact that you have 3 other teams that are bringing different imprints, different states, different fan bases, and it's not all in the same state of Texas, I think Houston is an addition that makes a ton of sense. So, glad to see them a part of the mix, and that'll make for some heated rivalry games. And, that's still going to be big-time SEC territory, but maybe this does help the Big 12 take a little bit of a chunk out of Houston once again.
All right, when we come back, Jeff Howe covers Texas. They open up with the University of Louisiana in a game that could be a little dicey for the Horns, and Louisiana might even, are they ranked higher in a couple of the polls? Is that correct as far as the Ragin' Cajun? Billy Napier, who's one of the hot young coaches, with what he's done. That's next. If you do look behind us, we're live at Panther Stadium in Hewitt, South Waco, Woodway, Texas. We have high school football tonight, 6:30 pregame on 365 Sports. That will also be the play-by-play color and sidelines from us and the game on video as well. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. We continue in a moment. Waco Custom Marketplace right now. In fact, you have until 6 tonight and throughout the morning, early afternoon tomorrow. Items of the week. And a lot of this is tailgating, so I'm not sure you're doing that this weekend, but I don't care what weekend it is between now and the end of football season. My goodness, the tailgating, the product they have from tri-tip and brisket and sausage and chicken and whatever else, it is amazing. Right now, whole chicken's $1.20 a pound. This is Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco. Country-style ring sausage, $2.79 a pound. Hot links, $3.25 a pound. Baby back ribs at $5.75 a pound. Tri-tip, $4.25 a pound. Top sirloin steak, $6.50 a pound. And then 10 pounds of hamburger patties for $32.90. 10 pounds hamburger patties for $32.90, made right there for you as well. And they have easy peel shrimp for $11.50 a pound. That's the 21 to 25 count, 2 pounds of that as well. If you tailgate and you need product for whatever game, including next week, Baylor at home against Texas Southern, or whatever game you're going to, you can call them, order what you need, and then have it to pick up later in the week or at your convenience at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The Labor Day sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels with the new 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Pick out the 1500 Lone Star Quad Crew Cab, which offers style and dependability for any job. Come see this incredible full-size pickup truck today. It's the Labor Day sales event going on now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour winding down, and Jeff Howe, he does a talk show, a podcast, writes the hell out of what you do covering the University of Texas, joins us. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak on Sikkim 365 Radio. Jeff, is there some sort of a weird streak where first-year head coaches at Texas have a tough start no matter when they've arrived?
Yeah, Smokey, if you just look at, the kind of in the post-Darrell Royal era, starting with Fred Akers. Fred Akers is the last first-year Texas head coach to start better than 1 and 2. And some of that is just kind of where this program has been in those rebuilding cycles. But David McWilliams got off to a 1 and 2 start. John Makovic did. Matt Brown did, but this is where I say not all 1 and 2 starts are created equal, because if you look at two of Mac's first, that 1 and 2 start, they go on the road, lose to a top 5 UCLA team, then come back with Major Applewhite making his first career start, go on the road, lose to a top 5 K-State team. And then obviously we remember the way it started for Charlie Strong, a really bad loss to BYU, a close loss to UCLA, and then Tom Herman, kind of the story of his tenure, lose a game in a fashion you had no business losing it into Maryland, and then we're in a game that you probably had no business being in to a top 5 USC team on the road and nearly pull it off in double overtime. So history does tell you, Smokey, that Texas coaches do have a tough time getting off to a tough start, and that's not why Steve Sarkisian has, I wouldn't say expressed caution, but his sentiments to the public have been, look, this is not going to be an opener where you just roll the helmets out and go play. They respect the opponent. Steve Sarkisian has a ton of respect for Billy Napier, given the time that they spent together on the Alabama staff in 2016. So I think if you're looking at not just the history, Smokey, but looking at how, like, let's say Tom Herman, that regime handled, that first game against Maryland, that was quite frankly a pretty arrogant approach the way they had.
Yep.
It has been anything but for Steve Sarkisian. It's been very businesslike, and this is a team that, their game week preparations, it's been kind of like Steve Sarkisian's first 8 months on the job. Not a lot of hype, not a lot of, wholesale grand declarations about what's going to happen. They've just kind of gone and kept their mouths shut, heads down, and gone about their business.
That's against what they've been for a while, so good for them and good for Sarkisian. Jeff Howe at Jeff Howe 247 on Twitter, on the Horn in Austin, but also at 247 Sports covering UT football.
I just don't understand where you guys are getting this arrogance from Tom Herman. I always saw him as a calm and well-reasoned individual who was lacked to his own horn. Jeff, that all being said, the quarterback situation, does it make you nervous that they are not able to say, yes, it's Hudson Card, or yes, it's Casey Thompson?
Hey, Paul, just real quick, was your take on Tom Herman, was that before or after he opened the Baylor game 2 years ago by headbutting one of his own players?
Yeah, his team went unconscious after that,
I think it was the first Big 12 media days where he was 45 minutes late, and I think it was Bob Ballou made a joke like, hey, coach, not a Lombardi time, and he just lashed out like a cobra at him. So.
And I'll tell you what, that has changed also. My colleague Craig hosts Sark's coaches show, and he said, hey, Sark was, unlike the last few guys that have done this, Sark was about 5 to 10 minutes early getting to the coaches show. So it's been good on that front. But no, with the quarterback situation, here's what I think it came down to, Paul. And we kind of talked about this after that first scrimmage. But Casey Thompson got the reps with the ones pretty much throughout spring and then in camp leading up to that first scrimmage. And I think the fact that he came out and had 2 turnovers, when you look at how this Texas team is going to have to win, and especially how they're going to have to win early, they're going to rely on Bijan Robinson and that group of running backs. They feel like they've got a chance to play really good, sound defense. And I really do believe that Texas has a chance. When you look at Cameron Dicker handling all the kicking duties now, Deshaun Jameson's one of the best return guys in the country, and just the athleticism they've got at some of their skill positions, I think Texas has a chance to be elite on special teams. So when you're winning with your running back group, defense, and special teams, the ability to take care of the football has to take precedence over everything else. I think that's why Sark ended up going with Hudson Card at the end of the day. In addition to, I think Hudson Card's skill set just fits a little bit better with what Sark wants to do offensively. When you look at, take a look just schematically at what Alabama liked to do and what Sark kind of in this, second edition of his coaching career, Steve Sarkisian 2.0, after what happened at USC, going to Alabama the first time, then to sit with the Atlanta Falcons, and then his most recent run at Alabama. It's a lot of quick passing game, screen game, getting the ball to the perimeter quick, letting guys work in space, heavy on RPOs, heavy on play action. All the things that I've talked about with a quarterback skill set, a guy that needs to be able to see it quickly, a guy that needs to be able to manipulate the mesh point, a guy that's got to have quick hands. Hudson Card does all those things better than Casey Thompson. But to your question, Paul, I think why Sark is wanting to get Casey Thompson into this game is because after that scrimmage, when he didn't play well and Hudson Card got the bulk of the reps with the ones thereafter, Casey Thompson turned it on and had a really strong finish to camp, to the point that I was told in the second scrimmage, when Hudson Card was good, Casey Thompson might have been a little bit better. So I think he feels like Casey Thompson has earned the right to play. But at the end of the day, the reason why Hudson Card is starting this ballgame, I really do believe it's about the fact that through the spring and throughout camp, he just did a little bit better job of taking care of the football.
So, Jeff, they made a big hire, a defensive coordinator, obviously, somebody with a proven track record, and Pete Kwiatkowski. But what do you feel like the Longhorn defense has in store this season? Obviously, missed some big pieces from last year, but a lot of talent returning as normal.
Yeah, Craig, let me just say it's been way too long. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear you, man. Great to have you on.
It's, I do think Texas, the strength of this defense, is their interior defensive line, not just their front line guys, when you're talking about Keandre Coburn's played a lot of football, Moro Ojomo's played a lot of football, Tavondre Sweat's back off of a shoulder surgery. They've got a young kid, a true freshman, Byron Murphy out of DeSoto. They don't need to go 4 or 5 deep on the interior defensive line, but he was so good in camp that I think this staff just feels like, look, he's earned the right to play. You got to play him, even though you've got some really talented guys in front of him. So they're so deep and so talented on the interior defensive line. They took Alfred Collins, who was a 5-star signee coming out of high school in the 2020 cycle. They kicked him out the defensive end and are letting him try his hand out there because I think that's probably the only way at this point he's going to get on the field. So I think Texas, their defensive front is really good. DeMarvion Overshown got so much better at the end of last year. And if you look at his season last year, Overshown's season, the Baylor game was really the turning point for him. Leading up to the Baylor game through that Oklahoma game last year, he was missing a lot of tackles. His eyes were in the wrong place. People were able to use his aggressiveness and his speed against him with some misdirections and manipulating the mesh point. But the Baylor game was his best game up to that point, and he just steadily got better and better and better and ended up being the MVP of their Alamo Bowl win over Colorado. So, Overshown had a shoulder surgery in the offseason. He's back and ready to go. As a matter of fact, they held him out of the second scrimmage because they're like, look, he goes so hard in practice and puts his body on the line so much. We just want to make sure this guy gets to the opener. So I think between the interior defensive line and Overshown, they're fine. They should be, other than Oklahoma, I think they're as good as anybody in the Big 12 defensively right there. The areas with Texas defensively I struggle, and this, Craig, ties into the Pete Kwiatkowski hire. When you look at his defenses at Washington, they were really good at taking the football away from you. I mean, the year they made the college football playoff in 2016, I think they had 33, 34 takeaways. So that's one of the things they really prided themselves on. Texas didn't do a good job last year playing the ball when it was in the air, specifically the corners. Guys got panicked a lot of the time. My colleague on the Longhorn Blitz podcast, Rod Babers, and Rod was an All-American corner at Texas, played at a high level, so knows what he's looking at. He charted it, and he figured about every 5 targets when the Texas corners last year were in man coverage situations, they were either giving up an explosive play of 16 yards or more, getting called for defensive holding, or getting called for a defensive pass interference. Likewise, it was about over 12 targets that were making a play on the ball. Those numbers have got to flip if this defensive scheme is going to work. And that, Craig, is my biggest question about Texas defensively. When you look at Pete Kwiatkowski's defenses at Washington, his ability to work with Jimmy Lake, Pete Kwiatkowski running the defensive front and Jimmy Lake running the secondary, their ability to work together to tie the front end with the back end. What is that relationship going to be like with Pete Kwiatkowski and Terry Joseph, who's the defensive pass game coordinator and works with the corners? How those two are able to work together to tie the front end to the back end, that could be the difference between this Texas defense being one that, they can maybe get your stop when they need to, or maybe this defense being one of the better defenses in the Big 12.
Louisiana tomorrow night ought to be should be fun.
Last ride in the Big 12, maybe.
Yeah, and who knows? You're right. Could be the last year that Texas is a part of the Big 12. A lot remains to be seen about what they in Oklahoma try to do. I'm not sure, Jeff, if you've kind of kept up with what's going on, but the train on the track with the Big 12. With UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, and Brigham Young. And this does appear to have more than just this is more than reporting. I've been able to say some things, Paul, Craig, and we've been able to report some things as well. Your thoughts about maybe those 4?
Yeah, when the Big 12 explored expansion, what was that, probably 2 or 3 years ago, my idea was, hey, take BYU and Boise and add them for football only, and keep everything else at 10 because, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, everything else is fine. Just add those 2 members that's football-only members. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I think for this league, if this league is going to stay together and the Big 12 is going to exist in some form once Texas and Oklahoma are gone, quite frankly, I think BYU has to be a part of that mix. And then if you're talking about adding other schools, I think Houston brings a lot. You've got some traditional rivalries with some of those old Southwest Conference rivalries that I think can get fan bases excited again with Houston coming to the league. And then Cincinnati and UCF, they've been in New Year's Six bowls, and they've had unbeaten regular seasons, and they've been ranked in the top 10 within the last decade, and they do have some relevance. So I think in terms of brands and teams that kind of have at least some, I don't know, drawing power is the right word you want to use, but at least allow the Big 12 to have an argument to maintain status as a Power 5 conference. that's probably the best you can do right there is those 4 schools.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Craig, you did a segment for a long time together, and glad to have you with us. Can't wait for the next time. Good luck watching, covering. Ought to be a hell of a game. Louisiana and Texas tomorrow down at DKR. And then the Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell Field as well, as far as finally being able to kind of put the official bow on that as well. That's Jeff Howe, 247 Sports on the Horn, and Austin as well with us when we talk UT football.
Yeah, I was glad that he was available to be on our show, and that was when we were talking in the offseason about, people that we could talk to regularly. That was one I went to. I love talking to Jeff, and I think he does a really good job covering Texas football and just, breaking it down I really enjoy it. So enjoyed that. I mean, obviously, Texas has got quite a buzz going on outside of the realignment. I mean, just with what the new coaches have done, and you hear the big change there of just a little bit of that arrogance is missing for right now, right? So that alone to me is an upgrade over the last guy, that's for sure. And that's good to hear if you're a UT fan.
Yeah, it is. When we come back, we've got a lot to get to, the 5 o'clock hour. There's a former high school star from Central Texas, short, fast, not recruited much. We had him on the radio a handful of times. He's Zach Robaczyk. He's a running back from Troy High School, which is just, 20, 30 miles short, so not even that long, south of Waco on I-35. Sam Houston State played last night. And my goodness, in his first game, he kind of had himself an explosive play. When we come back, we're going to show that. I believe we could be able to show that. Armstrong Sims has that dialed up. A couple of other notes about why 4 and why 3 of the 4 are AAC, other than the fact that these are 3 pretty good programs and what they might bring to the table. But why not 5 or 6 or whatever, and why not more from the AAC? And if you wonder about the Big 12, Bob Bowlesby, ESPN, maybe that has something to do with it as well. Just a couple of things to bring your way. Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Look, before I get to talk about all the fantastic things they have, look, if you're looking for a job right now, Riverbend Liquor and Wine is hiring, and you can do a lot worse, believe me, than working for the Chapmans. They're great folks, and they'll do you right at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. And not only that, they're going to train you up to be a fantastic customer service technician, because that's what they do. Their staff is so knowledgeable about everything that they have there, and look, they know exactly where everything is on the floor. And look, if you're looking for, I need this kind of vodka, they're like, all right, turn left down that aisle, 3 steps right by your right shoe. Boom, it's right there. They're drive-through window, unbelievably fast. They're just great demeanor and a nice place to go and buy spirits, beer, and wine. And right now they've got high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. More, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. I say right now they do. They always have great stuff when it comes to high-end bourbons and high-end everything. Great customer service, like I said, and that speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Bowser up the middle. Bowser over the goal line. Touchdown, UCF. What an opening night for Isaiah Bowser.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, a little bit of time here to read a few texts or chat. 254-339-11. I want to thank, because we try to do this as much as we can, Armstrong and Hayden behind the scenes with the camera. There's a picture of Hayden. Armstrong is the one taking the pictures now with the shoulder camera. Paul Catalina right here in the gray shirt. Is that gray? That's gray, isn't it, brown?
Gray, yeah.
Paul, Craig Smoak in his blue shirt right here in the middle. And then I'm the old man, the grandfather of the group. And we are on till 6 o'clock. We'll turn around at 6:30. We'll have right back on 365 Sports and on our app, Sikkim 365, and all across our various outlets, a radio broadcast of Midway and Permian. Permian's the school that has Mojo. They're the school that created Friday Night Lights.
And they just got here.
And they just arrived.
Yep.
It's an amazing tradition. They have not been as good of late, but they still have tremendous mystique, and it'll be fun to. First time I've done a game. I've been covering high school football in Texas for 40 years, and the first time I've broadcast a game with them involved. Now, back to the Big 12 and the news of today that is being reported by a lot of different people. And we brought you a couple of new nuggets, by the way, at the top of this show about why this and that. Here's a couple of notes as well. UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and Brigham Young. Why 4 and not 6 or 8? The AAC has 11 teams. If you take more than 3, that drops them below 8, which is the minimum for a conference validity.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
This also could be good faith, but also helps ESPN and their media product, because isn't that interesting because of the fact that Bowlesby put out the cease and desist?
That would have been funny if Bowlesby had gone and tanked a conference, just be out of spite for ESPN trying to tank his conference, yeah.
Here's another note. The AAC then can begin their own replacement process, knowing that they're about to lose 3 of their 11, so they can bump it up 1 or 2 or 3 with whoever is out there.
Liberty will be a top team, I'm sure. Like the UTSAs, I would think. A team like that's kind of on the up and coming trajectory, being a big San Antonio. Like teams like that, yeah. So there's definitely more movement coming. It's just going to be going lower and lower level-wise as we go.
We don't know the order of Brigham Young and Houston or UCF and Cincinnati, nor does it matter if they're going to bring in 4.
I think BYU's pretty clearly the number 1.
You would think.
Yeah.
Well, BYU
but it doesn't matter.
The BYU can just go.
Yeah, it doesn't matter,
They can go right now, whatever. Okay, now, who do you think would be 5 and 6?
I would think Memphis. Well, I got to think of the teams in my head first. Go ahead, Paul.
I would think Memphis would be 5th or 6th, and then I would think that Boise State.
I go. For some reason, the Colorado State thing sticking with me for some reason. I don't know why, but I'd say Memphis and Colorado State. I don't think that's right, though.
Memphis I don't think any question would be 5.
Yeah.
Boise State most likely would be slotted at 6. No clue on 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So
at 7 and 8, you get in some weeds.
See,
I don't think you do. Like if you get in some weeds where it's a tougher sell. Where you say like Colorado State. Okay, well that's Colorado. That's moving further west, where you only have really 1 team in the West with BYU right now. So I guess 2 if you had Boise State. So you have 3 teams in the West, and then after that, like really, you're getting in some tall grass.
You're getting into like SMU again, which I mean is fine, and I would imagine that they were a team that was discussed. But the Houston argument, that makes sense. The Dallas argument, that's not even the same thing. Like they don't need the Dallas market the way that they might need the Houston market. I think they have schools surrounding that area, from Tech to TCU to even Baylor just down the road, really. Oklahoma State. So I don't think they need the Dallas market like they probably need the Houston market.
And the other thing is, like, when you think about the graduates from Kansas and Kansas State that moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, when
Texas Tech's largest alumni base in Baylor, I think, is Dallas, right?
I think Baylor's actually might be Houston. But I saw that a couple years ago, so maybe that's no longer correct.
I think that's our listening audience when it comes to the top markets who listen or watch us in Dallas is 1, Houston is 2.
But my point is like you then start to get to, okay, now you're at SMU. Okay, SMU, I could see a scenario where they were in the conference, but then when you get past SMU, I mean, now you're getting into like what's next? The Southland going to join? So there does have to be a cutoff point to where quality remains as best as possible, yeah.
So those are some reasons, perhaps why 4 and 3 AAC. So all of a sudden you have this network who might be trying to stab you in the back, and already had because of conversations with the SEC. And I say that ship has sailed. It's not really about Texas and Oklahoma anymore. No. That's old news. But then you all of a sudden maybe have them trying to peel away a few from the Big 12, trying to undermine them with the AAC, because it would help Texas and Oklahoma leave early, which would help the SEC, which would help, of course, then ESPN. And now all of a sudden maybe they're working with you. Maybe the Bob Bowlesby, as many things as perhaps he did not know or could have done better. Perhaps that simple little comment, that simple little move legally could have maybe led to some of this happening.
Well, we're using the word maybe a lot, so who knows? And I'm sure Bowlesby will at some point. Well, actually, with him, probably we'll never know the real story of what
we will. Well, he's going to have to answer some damn questions.
I mean, I just don't know that he's going to give us all the details. But yeah, I mean, he'll definitely have to answer some questions.
But why not? Why can't he do that? Because you know what?
He doesn't strike me as that type of guy. Honestly,
he's been hung basically. He's hung out there to dry.
He strikes me as a politician.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I say that he's not going to really answer. He might say a whole lot, but that means he's going to answer with what you're actually looking for. I don't know. We'll see. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on it. I don't know that his comments were the key to all this, but I do think, if anything, it slowed everything down a little bit to where even ESPN was like flying at 100 with OU and Texas, and they suddenly had to hit the brakes real quick and go, okay, wait a second, this is actually something we got to be mindful of major lawsuit potentially. So, yeah, I think if anything, just that little comment, at least just sort of put everything to a stop for a second, let everybody kind of review the pieces on the chessboard, so to speak, and then move from there.
All right, this guy who's doing Permian Radio is about to tear down this sheet off the window. I'll help him out in the break. Just knock on the window, Paul. Yeah. Okay. Now, that's okay. All right, we're trying to help somebody out here. So now, what's next? What's Paul? That can wait. What's next?
That's what I was saying was the commercial break so that we can help this guy.
Well, he was about to tear down the entire thing off the window. So here we are. By the way, on the chat room, I finally was able to log into that. There is a Boise State Brigham Young fight.
There is. Look, and Boise State brings a lot of value. Compared to a lot of teams. But like BYU, again, there's only one other school that can claim what they can claim is Notre Dame, and maybe on a different level because Notre Dame's been, the college football royalty for forever. But I think that Boise State is much more of a Johnny-come-lately than BYU is, and BYU has this massive fan base that is not necessarily just alumni. They expand beyond their alumni, and that's something that's difficult to compete with.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious how the Big 12 viewed it. No, not only is Boise State not in the 4, they're at best 5th, and you could make the argument that BYU was probably number 1. We'll find out, but I can't imagine they weren't either the first or second choice that the Big 12 was making. So, to me, with no dog in the fight and no real knowledge of the details of what everybody's getting into or whatever, have an immense amount of respect for Boise, but I think it's pretty clear by the Big 12's movement of the Boise versus BYU argument.
And look, the only reason that BYU is not in the Pac-12 because they want to be if you ask any of their alumni, they wanted to be in the Pac-12. They thought they were going to the Pac-12. Well, that did not happen because the Pac-12 has this deal about religious schools, and BYU is not going to play on Sundays, which we talked about it yesterday or the day before. You're really talking about probably 25 days a year where you're going to have to move, like not even half the Sundays, less than half the Sundays, I would say, that we have in the year that you'd have to move something on.
I'm glad you brought that up. A former Baylor athlete told me that there were like 3 times in his history of playing baseball at Baylor when anything baseball or most of the other sports was ever played on a Sunday, and most of the time because baseball had a rain out. And the Baylor president is the one who had to make the call to allow them to even do that. So Sundays is not going to be too much of a problem. There might be a couple of occasions, and if they can't play, they can't play. Instead of Sunday, they play Monday. That will be more the rarity, and they'll schedule around that a little bit, and I'm okay with that. If that needs to help one of the people who's trying to help you as well as you're helping them.
Yeah, I think it's like the most it's definitely a point of contention. I think it's the least interesting storyline of the entire thing is the whole Sunday thing.
How about this from Fran Fraschilla? Think about this, the basketball part of this, if all this works out. Brigham Young has a 22,000 Marriott Center. UH basketball, who Baylor just played in the Final Four, plus their history in basketball. Cincinnati basketball is pretty damn good.
Huggy Bear used to play his old school.
And UCF is, what Fran said, a potential gold mine, perhaps, if they're a part of this as well.
That's where Memphis would have come into play, too. Would have been basketball.
Lordy, yeah.
But, like you said earlier, for all the folks who are apparently having that Boise-BYU conversation, if there is, in fact, a second potential wave, then maybe that's not even an argument, and maybe both of them are in there eventually. Who knows?
Armstrong, do we have that video? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah.
What do you get?
Colt Barber just sent us this text. What do we know about the Big 12 remaining P5? Has anyone ever given a different definite answer to that question, that it isn't going away or not? I would say, since the Big 12 is part of the group that set up the college football playoff, those conferences that did, that at least until their grant of rights is up or the college football playoff contract is up, then they'll stay at P5. And then if the thing expands, then
it's not a designation that was like it was a voting rights thing.
Yeah.
So they're P5 until they're basically told otherwise. And I don't see why with this expansion they would suddenly be told, no, you lost 2 teams. Now you 12 or 14 are irrelevant to these power conversations. I don't think that would happen.
And also, when the alliance was mentioned a week ago or whenever it was, we had a couple of the conference commissioners reach out and make comments in a positive way, although they didn't say, hey, you're a part of this, but they did make comments in a positive way about the Big 12.
Would you move to another A5 for, or what are they?
No.
A5? I mean,
Why
like
move?
Why are they
Yeah.
moving? You know, I mean, the money, but why is it more money? It's more money because it's an autonomy 5.
Yeah.
You know,
and you want that
conference.
money to be as a part of the college
And the
football
playoff,
expansion.
yes.
All right, this is a young man that played at Troy High School. I said I was going to mention this is Zach Robotchik. I don't know if you can see this. Hold on just a second before you go to that, Hayden. So you see us in the booth, and again, Hayden and Armstrong are switching back and forth with the cameras on YouTube 365 Sports. So here is Sam Houston State last night in their game to open up the season. And I don't know, is there audio with this, Armstrong, as well? I don't think, well, there is, but that's okay. Here, show the run with Zach Robotchik. Okay, here's Zach Robotchik. Now, he was not recruited very heavily. Mainly the Sam Houston States. I think there's a couple. I know my alma mater wanted him, or at least maybe got on him a little bit too late. I don't know. But that's what he does. And it's like basically his debut in college football at the FCS level, he's going to be a problem for people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how Sam Houston's been so good, because of guys that they get like him.
He's compact, low to the ground, fast, one-cut runner, gets vertical really quick. And, yeah, he's going to do really well at the defending national champs.
He got caught from behind. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean,
he was
great run. I mean, he did get caught from behind, but no, that was a great little run. He showed his shiftiness and his speed, and a little more got him in the end zone. But I think he's going to have no problem doing that for Sam Houston. More than a few times during his career.
How about this mid-first quarter? Virginia Tech 7, North Carolina 0. That's a very dicey opener for Mack and company.
Well, Justin Fuente needs wins like that pretty bad, but I think once Sam Howell gets going,
This reminds me of last night with Minnesota. People are like, oh, my God, they're up by like 14. And I'm like, okay, how much time is left? All right, there's a lot of time. But, hey, that is, that is something to keep track of.
I'm not a person who's ever, openly enjoyed watching Ohio State win. Mostly it was because of Urban Meyer, but he's gone now. I last night, because, you guys know how I feel about PJ Fleck, who's the human motivational cat poster. He just irritates me on the level I can't
wish he was irritating me.
I know.
I wish he was irritating me with my team.
But yeah, he runs the style of football that you like. I like that. I really hope that Ibrahim is okay. He's fun to watch. But I just knew that if Ohio State got the littlest sliver of good, that's all they needed. Wasn't it the strip sack
touchdown that kind of gave them that extra?
Yeah, once they had the separation. Everything, because of the way Minnesota plays compared to the way Ohio State plays, everything had to go right for Minnesota, which meant no penalties. Like they lost a first down because they had an unnecessary roughness penalty early in the game. They lost, they had
30 yards in penalties in one drive.
Yeah, they had all these penalties. You cannot do that against Ohio State if you're Minnesota. Now, they are a pretty good team, and they're probably going to beat most of the teams that they play, but they cannot beat Ohio State unless they play a perfect game. And Ohio State's far from perfect yet. They're just so talented all over the field that it's hard to beat them when you shoot yourself in the foot.
How about Philip Montgomery in Tulsa last night?
Terrible loss.
19-17 to UC Davis.
Now, they were apparently missing a bunch of starters or something. I don't care. I don't care. That's a bad loss to UC Davis. If they were missing their entire defense, and I learned that later, okay, I'll give you a bit of a break. It was a low-scoring game. Like, I don't know. I guess some of the starters had to be on offense, or UC Davis just has some great defense. But I remember Philip Montgomery throwing up 50 every week like it was nothing. And, that's a little bit concerning of an opener. I will give him a little bit of a slide because guys were missing, apparently many guys. But you can't lose to UC Davis. You can't do that.
All right, let's try to go from text, and then Sam Bradshaw comes back. Here's a couple of comments. I'll get the big UCF fan, Big 12. Oh, they got a banner up. And this is on like some kind of a billboard. You're in Big 12 country, UCKnights.com and Big12Daily.com in the UC colors. That didn't take long. Thank you.
UC Knights.
I guess
UCF Knights.
I guess UCF Knights is probably taken.
All right, from the 2-1.
So what were we talking about, Cincinnati or UCF?
No, UCF.
Okay.
The Knights.
I thought we were talking about Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Sorry.
what happens if Brigham Young has a game go past midnight crossing into a Sunday? My head's about to
I don't want him in the
explode.
league anymore based on all these little intangibles that we have to worry about. Playing on Sundays, playing after midnight. I mean, my gosh.
Rapid fire 205. American would have 6 options, I think. Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, Liberty, Coastal Carolina, who blew somebody out of the waters, Louisiana, and also UAB.
Well, I mean, they like the Sun Belt is sitting there right now going,
"Oh, they're screwed."
Dang it!
Yeah.
You know, like what do we do?
Well, going back to that BYU question, I have no idea. Like, I don't think we have any particulars.
Let's put it this way: it'd be a good problem.
Yeah, it'd be a good problem. I mean, they're not even official members yet, so we have no idea of like how they're going to handle specific situations as related to BYU. So, I mean, no idea, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough.
860 to wrap it up, and then we come back with Sam Bradshaw. What
was the other question though? Because I went backwards.
It was about who they could go after. The ACC could go after.
Yeah, I mean those would be the basic teams. I mean, there was even some people going with UAB for the Big 12 because of that Birmingham college football market that's the best in the country.
And where their campus, I think, is right across the street from the SEC headquarters.
Yeah, so
that's not like going to put fear in their heart. Don't get me wrong, but that was just kind of a neat little nugget there.
They're going to get hurt by that, but I think that the American will be in a position similar to the Big 12 where it won't be exactly as good as it was, but they can still find some quality fill-ins, I think.
From the 860, is it possible the Mountain West could further raid the AAC for SMU and Memphis? Would Gonzaga go to the Mountain West now that Brigham Young is leaving? Will Navy and Wichita stay in the AAC?
Gonzaga doesn't have a lot of sports. Like, that's the reason that they're in the conference that they're in, the WCC, is because they don't have a lot of sports. They don't have football. Let's let Gonzaga be Gonzaga. I've seen that a lot. Look, Gonzaga's pretty. I get that Mark Few, probably called out their conference opponents a little bit, and the biggest reason that Baylor smoked them in the championship game and that UCLA gave them a run for their money is that UCLA and Baylor had played some people during the year, and Gonzaga had not. But I do think that if you ask them, would you like to win this conference every year and pretty much stamp your way into the Sweet 16, they would say yes. And as opposed to throw them in the Big 12 and let them play that, they're a little more beat up.
All right, when we come back, again, 3 games tonight. Virginia Tech early on North Carolina 7-0. Kansas opens against South Dakota, the Jeff Leipold, is that right? Leopold era. And then the Big Ten has Michigan State, Northwestern. When we come back, Sam Bradshaw, S11, breaks down how does Baylor or Texas State, how do they attack each other? That game tomorrow night in San Marcos. We'll have our pregame show at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon on Sikkim 365 Radio. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. You see it. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. In fact, I have it right here in front of me. I was over there today, spoke with Ted Teague about some great news coming up about awards and honors for what is Ram and what is Dodge. And we'll have that for you at some point next week. You know about Ram Truck, Motor Trend's Truck of the Year, back-to-back years. Well, now it's like the best vehicle overall. And again, details coming on that. I also was given this, the all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee L. Ready for your team. Now with more room, pack up your favorite team in a new Jeep Grand Cherokee L from Alan Samuels. And speaking of that new Jeep Grand Cherokee L, 3rd row seating, incredible Jeeps arriving daily, and you're going to fall in love with what you get there. Come by and see the new model at their dealership, which is right around the corner from where we are as well. The Labor Day sales event going on. Here's one note on the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Ram truck owners most loyal to the brand. Engineered to bring confidence under the toughest road conditions, impressive towing capacity, payloads, and load stability, offering comfort levels that exceed the demands of daily driving. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
All right, here we go. This 5 o'clock hour. We take you up until 6. We'll turn right around at 6:30. Our pregame Midway football against Permian. 7 o'clock kick here at Panther Stadium on Sikkim 365 Radio and on YouTube 365 Sports.
I just had a random thought just now during the commercial break. There's this big push for the non-Power Fives to have playoff spots. This kind of riddles that non-Power Five, grouping of teams, doesn't it? I mean, all of a sudden the teams that you were talking about that had a chance or should have had opportunities or, were knocking on the door or whatever, that was UCF. That was Cincinnati. That was
Boise. Now, if they're a part of the, yeah.
There'll still be Boise. There'll still be Navy. Not really in contention in football, but there'll still be some teams. But that's of interest to me.
No, it takes care of some of the elites of that particular level. We're now joined by, he's the guru, the X's and O's. He's the one that allows us to take whatever the heck we watch when it comes to games and or what we're about to watch and break it down and make sense. Sam Bradshaw, S11. On Sikkim 365 Radio. Sam, thanks for your time as always. So you don't really know much, do you, about what Texas State can do with all the transfers, or do you just go back, this is what they've done, and it's just going to do it with better people?
Thanks for having me on. And I think the answer is going to be a lot more of this is what they've done. They're going to do it with better people for the most part. They lost two of their better receivers, but aside from that, they've upgraded 60% of their offensive line, 60% of their secondary, both due simply to transfers. And then on the defensive line, they've got a Texas Tech transfer at nose tackle, and then they get their starter at defensive tackle back, to the point that you've added two more bodies onto the rotation there that allows them to push some of the guys that they were counting on and actually been pretty productive for them out of the starting lineup. So they've got a few guys there that they can lean on a little bit. So it's going to be a little difficult to project, because how well does that offensive line protect against Ika? How do they do when Terrell Bernard's coming on a blitz? Or how do they handle Petrie off the edge? Any number of matchups. It's tough to get a real finger on the pulse of that because there's so many new faces.
What do you think when you watch Brady McBride, and would it surprise you at all to see Tyler Vitt as well?
Well, with McBride, he's not all that big, but it kind of reminds me of Mayfield in the sense that he's not going to win any 4x100 races for you, but he's viable enough as a runner. But he just buys so much time, and he is unafraid to throw it into any window. That works against him sometimes, but more often than not, it's working in Texas State's favor, which is why he's the guy that got the nod. He tends to protect the ball a little better than Vitt, who has a little bit more mobility than McBride does, at least in terms of being a true running threat. But they've shown that they can move the ball with both of them. But it's going to be up to Dave Aranda and Ron Roberts on their defensive calls to find ways to get pressure on these guys with relatively few. Use some creepers, use some simulated pressures to where you're able to do whatever you can to keep these skill guys from potentially making this more of a game than it needs to be.
Sam, we've discussed Gary Bohannon as the starting quarterback, and we saw him earlier this week. Craig was at the media session. We put it up and ran with that. It seemed like we hadn't seen much of him, obviously because of the lack of snaps, even though on occasion he might be available for this or that. He just seemed like he was a grown man and at peace with everything. How about you?
Well, I think having a guy that's been in the system as long as he has should give you a fair amount of comfort going into a game like this. Even if he hasn't necessarily been on the field or starting, you've got a guy that he's been through the off seasons. He's studied. He's worked. So regardless of what his ceiling may or may not be, and athletically he's got a big one, the issue you've got is just you're always worried about how are they going to perform. And you tend to see how veterans outperform young guys in this regard a lot of the time, simply because they've been around. They've seen it. It may not be in live game action, but they've seen unique pressures. They've seen how you have to be aware of the protections. They've seen how you have to look off certain defenders. They've seen it. And I think that Baylor will catch some of the benefit of that with Bohannon.
So I'm sure you looked at the depth chart, and for anybody looking for a whole lot of clarity on the offensive line, it wasn't really there. We should have some more after Saturday, but it's obviously going to be a bit of a group effort. Sam, what are your thoughts on the O-line entering tomorrow's game?
I'm just looking to see them play a clean game. I think that was much more of an issue last fall than any raw talent disparity you saw. Because, you're talking about a lot of those same guys were back from 2019, and the one new addition they had last year was an all Pac-12 performer. And, you lost Bettier from last year and you lost Burton, but you also brought in two transfers. You still have Connor Galvin, who you feel pretty good about, Xavier Newman, who's been solid for a while for you. And you've got a lot of the same faces in there that you think can potentially develop into something really good athletically. You've got to think that you have a pretty good group by now. And, with a new approach where it's all dedicated to simplifying, being able to get reps in and being able to know what you're doing, do it well, rather than try and be a master of all trades as they were trying to do last fall, I think it should pay off. I'm not expecting them to have the kind of offensive line they had in 2015, but at the same time, I expect some significant improvement, particularly against Texas State, who really struggled against the run.
All right, so in the end, who has the most touches? Obviously, you would think Ebner, but then Abram might be the one that gets the ball quite a bit when they run the ball, and if they have the lead, you hope that that's the case. In the end, counting even returns, Ebner or Abram Smith have the most touches?
Carries, I'd probably say Abram Smith. Touches, when you add in returns and you add in receptions, I think Ebner might squeak it out, but honestly haven't really thought about the breakdown there. I've been thinking more just how are you going to handle certain fronts.
Well, that's what we have you for, and I just slipped in like a curveball on you because I just felt like I needed to find out if you could take the curveball and take it to right field, and you did. Thank you. Craig?
Yeah, I guess, Sam, just is there – I mean, I think it's kind of – we've been talking about the same stuff so much. I mean, it's on the O-line, obviously, a new quarterback. I mean, just as far as what your expectations are tomorrow and how the game plays out, do you think this is eke it away in the fourth quarter, pull away? Like, what are you just expecting in terms of just generally with the game tomorrow?
My prediction on the site was 31-21. The numbers that I was using to project it came out a lot more favorable than that. But I just think first game, you're going to have sputters. Somebody's going to miss an assignment and get a holding call. Or Gary's going to miss a throw that he wouldn't at midseason. And then on the other end, and then on the other side of the ball, I have a lot of respect for Spavital as an offensive play caller. He's going to have a couple things dialed up, and I think he'll get a cheap touchdown, maybe two, off of that. And they'll keep it closer than it needs to be, but I don't think the outcome's going to be in doubt.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate your time. Sam Bradshaw. And then the good news is next week we have evidence.
To talk about. Yeah,
we have actual evidence. We have X's and O's. We have truth serum, film don't lie, all of that, and then we'll discuss the next upcoming opponent with Texas Southern. Sam, thank you so much. I want to finish up. We have one more thing to get to you. I saw you make a comment a little bit about the expansion. As you know, today it went in.
Yeah, you said thank you, Sam. So
Okay. Well, let me ask the question and see if he's that good. He can answer it without being on the show with us. He's really funny. Well, thank you for it. He's so low key.
Yeah, he's so dry he chafes. Yeah.
But all the time, just thinking and thinking and thinking as well. So we appreciate Sam Bradshaw. Let's see. Virginia Tech, North Carolina. They are still in the first. No, they've gone to the early part of the second quarter. Still 7-0.
Long first quarter, but 7-0 still. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
But North Carolina inside the Virginia Tech 40-yard line.
North Carolina did lose to Florida State last year, so I mean they've got it in them.
All right. Here's from the 217. Illinois fan here. God, I love you. Thank you for making my weekend so good. I've always loved listening to Sports Talk Radio the Friday afternoon of week one of the high school of the college season. Glad to have Sikkim 365 leading the charge as my go-to on the airwaves this year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you guys have any insight on UT San Antonio or guys to watch for, hoping the Illini can go 2-0 in the Bielema era tomorrow night? Let me tell you something.
Hey.
You got yourself someone coming down the pipeline that is going to play with their hair on fire.
Yep.
We know their head coach personally, Jeff Traylor, who is a longtime successful coach in high school. Now, that doesn't mean anything as far as like tomorrow night.
He's almost like our Tony Randall on the show, by the way.
Yeah. How many of the starters do they have coming back? 20 or 21 of 22? They've got some of those extra year guys.
The running back.
What's Sincere McCormick.
Sincere McCormick's the tailback.
Is a very good running back. Yeah, I mean, you're probably in most years looking at UTSA and thinking, hey, this is a very winnable game. This is a win on the schedule. I would just say this year it's a much dicier game than it probably would be in most any other year, because not only does Jeff Traylor now enter year two, he built up a lot of confidence with that group last year, hit the transfer portal super hard. He's got great relationships with the Texas high school coaches, which I know doesn't matter, but it's helped him in bringing in talent, is the point. And
in fact, his entire class was a Texas class.
Yeah, they're going to be ready. I mean, they're going to definitely try to run the ball know McCormick, but they'll sling it around a little too. They'll play solid defense. I mean, I know this is kind of a generic report, but I don't know what else to tell you.
Sincere McCormick, he asked for the playmaker.
He's the dude at running back. I mean,
Now,
that's the main guy.
Having said that, Illinois, I saw some guys that could make some plays for them, although Nebraska threw up on themselves. Illinois had a little bit to do with that, the scoop and score and the big long drive to start the second half. They're bigger. They are a Power 5 school. We've also seen where that doesn't matter. But I'll tell you this, I'll be surprised if that game is not down to the last 8 to 10 minutes of the game. I think that's going to be very, very close between UC San Antonio. Now, one year Baylor played them. It was Matt Rule's first year. They had just lost to Liberty.
Yeah.
And then they lost, to UT San Antonio?
They lost to everybody but Kansas that year.
And they, of course, lost to Duke as well. So, but the next year, then Baylor went down there and spanked them pretty good in San Antonio.
But, that had far less to do with UTSA than it did with how bad Baylor was. Like, that was not UTSA looked great. Now, though, I will say this year, no, they actually look good, and they are, I wouldn't want them on the non-conference schedule if I was Baylor or TCU or whoever else. But, I mean, I'm not saying I don't think Illinois can win this game by any means, but it is going to be a tough game in my mind.
Now, a couple of notes in high school football to wrap up this week. Number 2 coming up in high school football. There's like 40 games in Texas that were canceled. We know the game with La Vega Connolly, crosstown rivals in the North Waco area. That was canceled. La Vega's playing Bishop Dunn up in Dallas, and then also Connolly has the week off. We have the Midway Permian game on 106.7, the Eagle, on 365 Sports YouTube. Midway's got their own YouTube channel as well. Last night, Aledo 45, Frisco Lone Star 35, and 2 really good 5A schools. That was one of the best games. There's some good ones tonight. Craig, your alma mater, off to a 1-0 start. Legacy used to be Lee, plays against JT, or what used to be John Tyler High. And they've kind of owned that series, even when they have been kind of mediocre over the last few years.
Yeah, Robert E. Lee, John Tyler is now Legacy versus Tyler. And I think Legacy probably should win this game.
They're heavy favorite. Yeah, they got the 2 Division I running backs. I think they'll be.
Yeah.
Now, a couple of the statewide games, Paul, then you're 5. Trinity and Austin Westlake on the road against Westlake. South Lake Carroll last night edged out Rockwall Heath. Judson at Lake Travis.
Let's go back to Carroll for a second. It maddens me, but it's also something I respect so much. That's what those teams always do. They always win the close game, no matter what.
They were down 35-17.
Always win the close game. That's Carthage. That's Carroll. That's,
used to be the guys here, both of them. Midway and Permian.
Yeah. I mean, but like you could be up 35 points on them in the second quarter. Teams like Carroll or Permian or Duncanville, DeSoto, and they're going to win that game somehow.
You know why? Because they just throughout the game, they don't whisper it, but the jersey whispers.
It does. I swear to God, it does.
You're not
man.
supposed to be.
There's just something crazy about it.
2 of the longest and oldest rivalries in the state of Texas, over 100 years now of Texas high school football. Lufkin at Nacogdoches. I grew up on that because that's where I started my career in 1981. And then Marshall and Longview's an old-time rivalry. Both of them are one-sided. Lufkin and obviously Longview have huge advantages in that series.
So Marshall is trending today, and I was like, okay, that's got to be like, I mean, it's definitely not Marshall, Texas they're talking about. And sure enough, it was. So Marshall goes into this game because they got mentioned on the new Drake album. So, like, everybody's like, wow. He mentioned Marshall, Texas on his album, and, yeah, he dropped it last night, and everybody went crazy over it that it's from Marshall, I'm sure.
Why?
Yeah. I haven't listened to it. I don't know. I just saw it.
Colleen beat Pflugerville Hendrickson.
Is that his new team?
No, he talks about Texas all the time.
22-17. Yeah, that's not good for Marshall.
No. He's got Texas ties.
All right, when we come back, we're on this Friday, week number 2 of the Texas high school football season. I just put this up in the chat room. We appreciate all of you who have been with us, whether it's been day 1 with Sikkim 365 Radio, April of 2020, or the YouTube explosion from 5 or 6 weeks ago, or those who joined us today. We will talk many things. Next week, we'll start getting more involved again. We have segments on the Cowboys as they open Thursday against the Super Bowl champions, Tom Brady and Tampa Bay. Paul Catalina's top 5 to wrap it up. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Ideal MRI, Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff, they do an amazing job, and they're just around the corner. It's the Central Texas Marketplace on the southwest of 35 in Waco. What do? They save you a ton of money. Okay, oh, you think about that. You know, you get stuff in the mail, you get phone calls, you get email. Hey, we want to save you hundreds of dollars, and they might not even be a real company. Ideal MRI is absolutely as legitimate as you could possibly be. They find out why your muscle or ligaments or something hurts so much you can't function. If your doctor wants you to get an MRI for what could be a torn ligament or a shredded or torn or ripped muscle, you tell them Ideal MRI, because they can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. $497 or less every single time you get an MRI from Ideal MRI, and they have a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine that's massive. And on finally this, the average MRI is more than twice of what their max of $497 at idealmri.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or wacocustommarketplace.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
If you're not going to a high school football game tonight, you can go to Improv at 7 o'clock at Slapsticks Comedy Club. Tickets available. And, of course, Daryl Felsberg headlining all weekend. So go see Daryl. Very, very, very funny dude, Daryl Hellsberg, that's at Slapsticks this week. Top 5 thoughts on last night's games, or after last night's games. So just a couple things I observed watching games all night. Number 5, Boise State, even though they lost, is going to be a tough out all year. They're going to be tough. Yeah. They're a good team. Coach Avalos has really inherited some good players. And, look, you saw it building with them a couple years ago, and they're not afraid to go play anywhere. And Boise State, to me, I would not want them rolling into my stadium or rolling into theirs. Just would not want that to happen. Veteran-laden team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Avalos is going to do a good job there. I think they played really hard and did some fun things. But, just really commendable job by UCF to stick in there as you're supposed to do and pull that one out. But, yeah, Boise State will be fine.
When it was 21-0, I started thinking that we're going to get Jeremiah Dickey on this show today.
Oh, yeah, I almost sent him a tweet.
Thank God I did not reach out to anybody because I would have just been battered.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Number 4, let's hope Mohamed Ibrahim's leg is okay because he is fun to watch.
Has there been an update on that?
I haven't heard anything.
Just lower leg injury.
Yeah, that's all I've heard is lower leg injury. So
that was definitely one of the downers from last night, and I've been looking to see if there has been an update officially on that. A lot of people are saying torn Achilles because apparently you could see it on the replay, which I did not go back to look that closely. But, man, what an awful injury if that's the case. I hope he's all right.
That was one of those things that happened in the middle of the game when I went to take out the dog, and it came back, and that's what they were talking about on Twitter. And I was like, oh, man, I'm glad I missed that. Number 3, Charlie Brewer is pretty good when he doesn't get hit in 2 seconds. Yeah. I mean, he's not Andre Ware or anything back there, but he's
Why did you pick him?
That was just a random. He was a Heisman Trophy winner
30 years ago.
Yeah. He's not Charlie Ward, but
you said it. Yeah. Perfect stat line of Charlie Brewer.
Yeah,
I said that. No, that was okay. It was okay.
Yeah, it's what he does.
He ran for like 40 or 20, whatever. He
He was 19 of 27 for less than 300 yards and a couple touchdowns, but should have had 4. It's like his Baylor career in a nutshell is what that is. Other than like a rushing touchdown, and being the leading rusher, quite frankly, for Baylor most of the time as well. But no, I was happy for him to get that win. The competition's obviously going to get ramped up, but a lot of Utah fans seem pleased with that, and I was happy for him, so good for Charlie.
Yeah. Number 2, C.J. Stroud and Dylan Gabriel, fun to watch. C.J. Stroud reminds me a little bit, and obviously they're different quarterbacks, but early Spencer Rattler, where you can tell how good they are, but they just need to play. Yeah. And once C.J. Stroud plays, just like Spencer Rattler played, all of a sudden, 4 games in, Spencer Rattler didn't look like a freshman anymore, and he looked like the dude. C.J. Stroud, early in that game, didn't look like a dude. Late in the game, looked like a dude. Dylan Gabriel, early on, he's a bit of an adventure, UCF. He's a bit of an adventure, but, man, he's fun. I mean, he's got a cannon, too.
On Stroud, when he was struggling and they were down, I was like, man, Quinn Ewers is going to get another $1 million without But, yeah, I'm happy for him. That's a ton of pressure.
Of course, he's got so many playmakers at wide receiver. Sometimes I think he could just chuck it up underhand. And
3 of them are from Texas. I know Garrett Wilson is, and the kid from Rockwall is, and there may be one other one. They are just loaded.
It's ridiculous the amount of wide receiver talent they have. And, that's, it was typical Twitter of knee-jerk reactions, and C.J. Stroud sucks, and, this and that at, like, the first quarter. And I get it. They found themselves in a little bit of a hole, but when all was said and done, he looks good at the end of the night. You just got to give him some time, and they won.
Yeah. Reps are good, people. People, good football players aren't just born sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're made. And number one, Ohio State still not great on defense. They
that is one thing. Yeah,
they made plays on defense.
Their defensive backs were out of position a lot,
but they've got a little ways to go there. Now their offense is so good that most of the times you probably won't notice it. But they Minnesota ran right at them for a good chunk of the night, and that's not something that should make them feel good going ahead. And that if you're going to play a team they're going to have to play Wisconsin eventually, they're going to have to play teams that will run right at you. That's the scariest thing to me about a defense. Not necessarily that you get beat in the passing game, because a lot of defenses do, but if somebody can run right at your, right down your teeth, man, it's that makes me nervous if I'm Ohio State.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter. Now they took over when they had to.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we'll see if that is like a recurring issue or if that was more of an issue last night. But man, I was just glad to see some stuff. Just to see, I can't imagine how many hours Ohio State fans talking about C.J. Stroud, but you finally got to see him last night, and then you can actually have something else to judge off of, or that defense or whatever. And I just love being able to talk about the actual stuff. The other stuff's fun too, but glad games are here.
I agree 100%. All right, Craig, you had one note from Colt, a text to us real quick on Cincinnati.
Yeah, he made mention of the fact, and I wasn't thinking about this, but Cincinnati's been a Power 5 whatever type of member before, because they were in the Big East before. Since he was in a BCS conference for 2 decades, the Big East, prior to their drop to the AAC. So, yeah, and they had success, and they were in bowl games and big bowl games. And yeah, just a reminder of sorts that not their first rendezvous with the top level, so to speak.
All right, there we go. All right, Paul, Craig, I'm David Smoak. We're going to turn around our pregame in less than 30 minutes on 106.7 FM, The Eagle, plus here on all the Sikkim 365 and 365 outlets. Here, come here, Hayden. How long is that cord? Give me that.
No.
No.
Every minute you don't close the show is a minute I don't have to set up.
Do you have? All right. There you go. Armstrong, is that right? There you go. I want to make sure these guys have been busting it. All right. Hayden Bumpus and Armstrong Sims, thanks for all of you. We'll have the chat going during the game if you're interested. Midway and Permian coming up at 6:30. Good night for now from Panther Stadium.